full agenda tonight, so let's try and stay focused. Good evening, everybody. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, the notice requirements have been satisfied. Meeting dates for the year are confirmed at the annual meeting are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the Municipal Center and published in the record within the first 10 days of the new year. All right, the first item on the agenda is Fister's Pond, and I know we have our borough engineer here.
Back here.
Is there anybody from the committee that's here?
No, but they said they were coming. Maybe you won't get here, because they're coming.
All right, so we'll come back to you hopefully before the end of to be considered. The next item on the to be considered is the former swim club site. Susan, who put that on?
I'm not sure, did you put it on? Okay.
So we have the former swim club site that we need to begin to plan for because we need a sense of how much to put in the budget come this upcoming budget year. We have two options, I think, to start. We can do an entire site plan, or we can do it in pieces. And I think we need a sense of what the pieces would cost. And what I would like to propose is to start bidding now for a landscape architect or someone to look at the whole of the site. There's some options, of course, to what to do with the pool, whether we take it out, leave it in, fill it in, whatever it is. But we need a sense of the costs and whether we should be budgeting for this in 1 year or do it in stages. So I'm throwing this out for to be considered, and I'd like to know if we want to start forming a committee or a smaller group to start working on this project.
Well, we can form a committee, but we do not have any money in the budget this year
Right, I'm talking about for the next
for
budget
the landscape
season.
architect.
Agreed,
I
I'm
mean-
talking about the 2020 budget.
My first question is for Bob Culvert, and that is, do you have any sense of when this dog park will be open?
I called the fence company today, and we should have a date for me for it tomorrow or Monday.
So the answer is at this point, no.
It should be done once the fence goes up, another week or two after that.
I mean, I don't know how the rest of you feel, but I'd like to see that actual physical dog park, even if it's just fencing, to get a sense of, what we have to play with. We do have time, and I think your idea is a good one, Lauren. We should definitely start to plan now for, our conceptual ideas for the space. It's a big space, and, there's so many possibilities. I don't know, how do you folks feel? Do you feel it's premature to put together a committee at this point?
I think, but so it's end of October, so we put the committee together now. We'll be into 2020 before long. The committee will maybe meet once or twice. It's probably not too premature, but I agree, we wanna see what the fencing looks like. So let's do both.
Well, why don't we have one meeting in November and two in December. I don't believe that we're gonna have a dog park open by the meeting in November. That's my sense of it. So if there are people that would like to sit on this committee, I'd like to get at least two other people, Lauren and Jeff.
I rarely volunteer, but I've been talking about the swim club site for a long time, and I feel very strongly about seeing
Okay.
that the long-term planning is beneficial to the
And
town.
Mark, if you wanna be an alternate.
Sure, that's fine.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay, so we'll have that committee. Obviously, we're not gonna meet in the next week or two, so. The next item on the agenda is the skate park, and we have a gentleman here who you want to please introduce yourself and.
My name's Doug Hagan. I'm with Spawn Ranch Skate Parks, and I'm here to do a presentation about what we can do for Tenafly out there.
Okay, well, welcome. Before you start, Jamie, you wanna explain to us how you came about inviting this gentleman?
Oh, sure. So, we had early onset meetings with Lizette and Jason, which is basically the head design coordinator. He came to us offering how we can change the space. Some of the things he said to us, he can comp design work, any little bit we can deduct from the cost of the skate park was really great. So we offered to meet with him. Basically, I brought this concept to the recreation committee, and we all decided collectively that we would like to see the space remain, but how would we do that? New concept and design for skate parks are concrete. Concrete skate parks are less maintenance, visually stimulating. In doing this, we can take down the fences, we can create an open space. The skate park, we could do half skate park, half green space area, meaning benches, places for the kids to go and hang out. And it could be utilized by all age groups and the entire community. So all this information was brought over, and basically this presentation is showing you what are our options, what can we do. And basically, I think collectively as a mayor and council, and we've been talking about this for quite a while. Peter, we also did, we went to the skate park, we got names of kids, seeing who still wanted it, we spoke with the police, so everyone's been a part of kind of where we are now.
Okay. So while he's getting to the start, just to bring everybody up to date, at this particular moment, we have spent no money on this conceptual idea. Susan, there is no money in the budget 2019?
There is none.
Okay, so, once again, if we decide that we, this is another item like the first one, Lauren, where if we decide we want to move forward with the skate park, it's a budget item for next, although that might be, would be a capital.
It would definitely be capital. You could take the funds from municipal open space, or you can put it as a capital ordinance and bond for it. That will have to be determined which way you want to go.
At the
Okay.
time.
Either way, it's a capital project.
Right.
Floor is yours.
Again, Doug Hagan from Spawn Ranch, Director of Projects, been with the company for 13 years. We build skate parks all over the country. We do a lot of projects in New Jersey. Sorry, this is my first time ever presenting, so so we're gonna go over basically who we are, New Jersey sampling of projects, evolution of skate parks, kind of talk about Tenafly skate park and some options for you guys. So Spawn Ranch started with, back 26 years ago, just building ramps in the backyard. The owner of the company, Aaron Spawn, he was a carpenter by trade and skated, and all his friends came over to his house and they used to say, let's go back to the ranch, and Spawn Ranch was born. X Games had a crazy idea. They wanted to have, or the company, ASPN wanted to do X Games, so they called up Aaron and said, hey, can you build us some ramps? So he said, sure. We got involved in the skate park, building ramps, commercially through X Games, and then it evolved from ramps and stuff to nowadays it's concrete. We were formed in 1992. We've got over 750 projects throughout the country, headquartered in Los Angeles. We have skaters on staff, architects, and concrete craftsmen, and 15 staff in the office, and like 30 plus people in the field working all over the country. So we do a lot of concrete parks all over. In New Jersey, we've got a lot of parks. We've done Roselle, Orange, we have 2 phases there, Elizabeth, Colonia, New Brunswick, Neptune, Keyport, Passaic. And those are generally projects where we've done all brand new parks on brand new spaces where it was grass or a field or something like that. Next slide. Other projects we've done are kind of like what you guys have here, is you have an existing park with an existing surface, and we've taken those parks like that and we've redone them, where a lot of times in the asphalt parks we'll just put a whole new concrete cap over the existing asphalt. We use the existing asphalt as a building base. So Seattle City, Cape May County, Union County, Bayonne, Monmouth County, Fanwood, Maplewood, Barnegat, Woodbridge. Sorry, I got those flipped around. All the other slides all the other parks were the ones with the ramps. But we've done parks all over. Now we're doing all these concrete parks. This is actually in Ocean City. The previous slide was Bayonne. So we have, you know, we take brand new sites, convert them into skate parks, or we take existing skate parks and redo them and build them up and make them better and more with concrete. Back in the day when skating started, people were they were jumping the fence and skating empty bowls back in California when it was, you know, during the droughts, people would empty their bowls or their pools because they couldn't afford to keep the water in there. So skaters were using the backyard pools, and then it kind of transformed from there. People were building concrete flowy areas called transitional areas. You know, and that was in the 70s and the 80s. Skating kind of got shut down for a while, but then it came back, and it came back with a vengeance. So there's parks popping up all over the country, and that was, people were seeing the ramps as a way of doing parks because it was like a way to get into it because they knew they should, and then the ramps were a way of, all right, let's try it out. We'll put them over here and see if they like it, see if they use it. Sometimes they were thinking it was a temporary thing, but nowadays everybody has skaters. Everybody wants skateboard parks because it gives a sense of community for the kids to go hang out with people who love to do the skateboarding activity. 1995, like I was saying before, ESPN X Games debuted. So there was a big influx of ramp parks all over the country because of it, and it just kept building more popularity and need throughout the country. So we were building ramps all over the place. Next slide. In 2000, it became clear that skating wasn't a fad anymore and was here to stay, and people wanted a more permanent solution for skating. So concrete was starting to be utilized more and more, and have a lot more flexibility with concrete because you can shape it, you can mold it, you can do a lot of cool transitional features or just straight features. You can do a lot of unique features with it. So it started to become a lot of design build where specialty contractors were doing building the skateboard parks that they were designing for the cities. In 2005-ish, a lot of parks we started going with a plaza style, so it wasn't specifically looking like a skate park, so that we would build plazas so it looked like a cityscape area where you could just go hang out and sit in the park, but it was also a skate park at the same time. This is in Elizabeth, so it's just kind of a hangout area for the whole family. It's skater kids and their parents, so we started focusing on plaza stuff. So that's another option that you can do. Next slide. And then today, the modern day skate is a mix of the bowls and the plazas. So skaters can enjoy all the different kinds of skating. So there's a lot of people will like street because that's what they're used to, skating up and down the sidewalks in town. Some kids get into transition, like the bowls and the quarter pipes and those types of things. So we try to give it a mix so that it's satisfying all the users. So this is the Tenafly Park. It's asphalt slab. We could take this and take out all the old ramps and then turn it into a plaza style. You know, depending on water table and drainage, you know, you could potentially go in-ground with a bowl type feature. There's a lot of possibilities. We just have to kind of talk about what the local skaters want and what the city wants for the local. So we were talking about ways of doing it. You could do project approaches are, first option is to replace everything. It's a large upfront cost. Second option would be to replace part of the site with skate and then doing the other side with other amenities or green space. Or you could phase it. You could do half of it one year. You can do another half another year. You could just leave half of it as is, take the ramps off and leave it the asphalt out there as is, and just because skaters do like just flat area, they'll do tricks and kind of mess around playing skate and stuff like that. So you could phase, build out one half 1 year, and then come back a year or two later and do the other half. So there's two options also for construction style. Like I said, we could take the asphalt and use that and build up from there, or you can demo all that out and rebuild from scratch. The latter is more expensive, obviously. It's just whatever you guys want cost-wise. So this is kind of an option. This is Woodbridge. We're currently in construction with that. They have a ramp park and an existing concrete slab. So basically we're taking all the ramps off, and then we're coming in with a concrete park, which is on the right. So it's all above grade. And we're actually, because it's concrete, we're able to cut into that slab. But so we're pouring all the concrete on site and creating a plaza style park. They have a lot of like quarter pipe and transition, so we tried to mimic what they had with concrete. So it kind of shows you what we could do with the Tenafly park. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Great, a number of questions. First of all, at some point, somebody said something about removing the fences.
Okay.
Do you have skate parks without fences? 'Cause
Yes. Yeah, if you guys are GIF, if you're in the GIF, then
Mhm.
they have a requirement, I'm pretty sure, with fencing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then, you've seen the site. It's big enough to do something worthwhile.
Yes. Quite large, yes.
My last question is, when I think of concrete, I think of, getting chipped. I mean, a skate park is gonna take a lot of use. I don't wanna say abuse, because kids are just skating. That concrete holds up?
Concrete does chip, and if you have bikes out there, it will chip more so, but it does hold up a lot better than ramp parks. Ramp parks traditionally have used skate light as a skating surface, and that typically only lasts 5 years. Skate parks will last 10, 20 years with the concrete. There will be some maintenance with the concrete, because you will have chips or cracks, because concrete cracks. But it is a much more durable surface, and kids are more used to skating on it, so they're rolling up and down the streets on concrete and asphalt. That's what they want. That's the feel that they like.
I was looking around for Bob Colbert. Bob, do you have any idea if it's possible to go down if we wanted to do a bowl?
You can't do
No?
it. You're too close to the Tenneck Hill.
So
Too close to what?
Too close to the
Tenneck
stream.
Hill Road.
Okay.
Okay, so if we were to use that site, it would have to be a surface park, correct?
Yeah, we'd have to go out.
Where's the closest one that we might want to take a look at?
I'm not sure about my geography here, so I'd have to.
Well, you're building in Woodridge?
Woodbridge, yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
that's close by.
Yeah.
So is
We've
Elizabeth.
done one.
Woodbridge is farther, sorry.
So is Elizabeth.
Not Woodridge.
Elizabeth.
Woodbridge.
Woodbridge
is not as.
Woodbridge is not close, but you have one in Elizabeth?
Elizabeth, yes. We're
Okay.
finishing one in Orange,
Roselle,
Roselle,
yeah, Maplewood,
yeah.
actually, it's not bad.
Maplewood.
One, please.
So one of the reasons why this was initially brought up is that we are looking to make the area where where the skate park sits, Roosevelt Commons, into a more usable green space for the town. And so I am very much in favor of the idea of more of a plaza with, I liked how you said the whole family can enjoy the space. If Tenafly went in that direction, if the council decided to build a green space skate park, what, we're kind of tight in that corner. How do you envision the space in that area? And do you do the rest of the green space, or is that something someone else has to do it?
That's not typically what we do.
Okay.
If we were to be hired as a general contractor to
Mhm.
design and build, we would probably subcontract some of that stuff out.
Okay.
But there's things like we've done with making it more family oriented. It's just kind of giving seating places like shade structures and benches and adding some amenities like that. We could do spectator berms or have like picnic areas built kind of off to the side, drinking fountains, those kind of bringing that in so that it's not just concrete in the middle there. We try to, around the edges, kind of make it a more family-friendly hangout area with benches, or I don't know what actually connects to it, but maybe there's some pathways that could be redone and brought in around.
Jeff, please, and then Mark.
Right, so, two parts. One, you showed the analog of Woodbridge. So, size-wise, how does Woodbridge compare to what we're talking about here?
I think Woodbridge is about 15,000 square feet, and I believe you guys are 12,000, 12 and a half, 12 and a quarter.
So not that
Not
far
to-
off.
not 12.
So now the $1 million
It's like
question,
12.
how much is Woodbridge paying for what they're doing now? What's the cost of a project like theirs?
It's, I think 750.
$7.50.
$750,000.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Mark, please?
So for the 750,000, can you build it over the course of 2 years or 3 years, or is that, they did that over 1 year?
That's
Has-
gonna be just 1 year.
That project was built in one particular year?
It's under construction now, yes.
So how many of the designs, how practical is it to build it over a couple of years?
Costs more because you got more mobilizations. That's mostly it, like, just more mobilization stuff when it's starting. Are you trying to open?
I'm just asking to
Yeah.
understand,
Yeah.
just the different possibilities. One last question, just kind of out of the park, is we have a pool we're gonna be talking about in a little while that needs a whole bunch of things happening to it. Is it possible to build a skate park in the pool?
In the pool?
Not this shape,
Not what?
not this
I wouldn't
shape
wanna
pool.
keep that pool.
No, I'm just asking a general
It's-
question, I understand.
We have never
yeah.
done one in a pool.
You never have,
It's
okay.
possible, because what you can do is you can just shoot a whole new layer over the old with shotcrete. You can prepare the pool walls,
asking.
but it all just depends on the shape of the pool.
Okay.
Yeah. But we've never done it, but I can see us being able to do it with shotcrete.
How long did the Woodbridge project take from the time you put the shovel in the ground to completion?
We just started.
Just how long will you think it'll take?
We'll be done, I think mid-December. Yes.
Any other questions?
Yes.
Lauren, please?
The project that we were proposing was not at that level of pricing. If Tenafly wanted to go with a smaller scale
Mhm.
skate park, do you build smaller, do you build,
Less ramps.
less, less, maybe we don't get all the details and the extra ramps and
Right.
the bumps, or do you do smaller scale projects?
Yes, we do. We do all kinds of projects from big to small.
I mean, we have a very tight budget here. so.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say our average, we're between the 250 and 250 range is kind of like on the low end average for us,
Mhm.
so.
To do anything under 250.
Well, in all fairness, we do not have a budget. We're just playing with numbers and trying to get a conceptual idea
Yeah.
of, from small to big, what it would cost us.
Right.
Then we have to go back to the drawing board and decide if we're going to invest that kind of money in this,
Sure.
in this
Yeah,
project.
I mean, you can do it, sure. It's, you're not gonna get a whole lot of bang for your buck.
I'm sure.
Because unfortunately, mobilization costs are high and they kind of chew right into the budget. If the city, a lot of times on the smaller budget jobs, the cities will bring stuff to the table. They'll provide fill, they'll provide work, like if in this case we were to mill up the asphalt and use the asphalt as fill, or the city might pay for those types of things from a different fund, or provide labor to help with dismantling or demoing the ramps, or those types of things. So there's options. There's fundraising. We've worked with cities on helping fundraise, giving them fundraiser ideas. There's sponsorships. So there's different ways of getting creative with funding.
Okay, well, thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
We have a lot of thinking to do where this is concerned. Leading up to the major decision, do we want to do this?
Right.
But we thank you for, giving us a sense of what's ahead of us.
Okay. Thank you.
They're really beautiful
Where did you say
things.
this one was? Sorry.
That's in Ocean City.
Yeah, they're really fantastic.
The good news is our Pfister Pond people are here, so we can jump back to Pfister's Pond. So Andrew is here, and so is Andrew.
Great name.
You wanna let us know where we are at this particular point? And first, Andrew can let us know where he'd like to go.
With this, Andrew? As opposed to Andy? So, Andy and I have been talking a lot the last couple of weeks. we've been doing a lot of work. So we originally had business pond kind of set of steps where hydro raking was one of them. And then we did some research, and then we did the town paid for a study to figure out how much value there is for hydro raking. And then we received the proposal, which I think was distributed to the mayor and council, with numbers that perked my interest. And so I've been kind of talking with Andy on trying to figure out where those numbers come from, why they have changed as much as they did, and what are the options. So very basically, I also did a little research, and I found that Demarest did a somewhat similar hydro raking study last year. So I went up there and got the numbers from them, and I kind of pushed on Andy a little bit to figure out why there is such a difference. But he has good answers, so he'll go the answer. But basically, we got our own, and what I was trying to get answers, and then he'll go into his answers, is the amount of material. There are a couple of parameters that impact the cost of a project like this. The amount of material to be taken out, the rate at which we have to pay for the work to be done, mobilization, and all those other extra overheads, and then the trucking as to what do we do with the material afterwards. And just to put it on a table, and I've told this to Andy before, is the estimates came up at 6,776 cubic feet, and the Mazer proposal was 256% of that estimate. And I kind of said, why is it 2.5 times as much? And the rate was also about 2.5 times of what Demarest paid for similar work last year. And mobilization restoration was also about 2.5% of Demarest ponds. However, that one I'm open because Business Pond is a lot more complicated to get to and work around. The Demarest Pond is right there. It's open, it's clear. But there was just a number of items where I thought that the cost and the rates are 2.5 times what Demarest has done or what others are charging. So that was part of it. As far as the trucking, we still hope that we can just use the material inside the nature center. But even if we can't, we should let it dry, because if it dries, guess what? It's about half the weight and the volume to be trucked than if you just truck it right as you pull it out of the ground. So I felt that there's a lot of areas where those numbers should be changed. Had a good discussion with Andy. He explained to me that his role is to present the worst case scenario. So my suggestion is that he and I go back, and if the council is okay with that, fine. If not, maybe we need to find a compromise, which is not the best case scenario either, but somehow find a compromise that you guys can live with. And also, so I don't know how many of you actually know the difference between like hydro raking and dredging. Should Andy spend a few minutes on that?
So let me couple things. One is Pfister's Pond. You kind of have to put it in perspective. It's what we'll call a dying pond. So the pond is dying day by day. It's filling in. Your organic matter is coming from around the pond, within the pond, and upstream the pond. And between sediment and leaves, debris, and other organic material, it's filling in. So if you wait, I don't know, another 3 or 4 or 5 years, that pond will become nothing other than a little river through, the dam will be useless, and the water will drain out, and it'll die. It'll be dead. It's dead. It's dying. The oxygen levels are low, and it's being overtaken by weeds. Many communities are facing this problem right now. So the problem is caused by a number of things. Different types of fertilizers and road treatments for either salt or other things that are getting into your ponds and streams that are causing low oxygen. A very big problem for ponds is geese. Geese are bringing in invasive type plants like water chestnuts and different types of seaweed. One of them called milfoil is another one. And these are taking over your ponds, and that's where you're losing your water surface. So your pond, Aquatic Analysis was hired by the Nature Center to come in and test the pond. And they looked at the pond as an overall, and they said about 2 acres needs to be hydro raked. What does that mean? So your water surface now is about 2 feet deep. below that 2 feet is what we call vegetative material. So what happens is it's a simple test. They take a big long stick that's like 4 feet long. They put it in. If it pushes in pretty easy, eventually you get to a point where it's hard. And they can wiggle it and they go as far as we can go. That area, that soft area, is an area that's really a mixture of mostly vegetative materials. Leaves, different types of weeds that have grown in there, and all the stuff that's fallen in the pond. A little sediment mixed in with that, but when you take it out, that sediment stays there. By not taking that material out, it significantly depletes the oxygen in the pond and actually does break down over time and can cause contaminants in the pond, because when wood breaks down, it causes contaminants that are similar to petroleum products. I don't want to bore you too much with it, but what happens is it kills the pond dies, it kills the oxygen. You're at a point now where aquatic analysis come in. They're one of 2 or 3 companies in the state that does this. They've looked at it, your pond's dying. If you don't address it in some fashion, in 4 or 5 years this pond's done. It's going to be overgrown, lily pad, water chestnut, filled in pond. The best way to address it, in their opinion, is to hydro-rake about 2 acres of it, take out about 2 feet of material over about 2 acres, which is not the whole pond. It's like half to 3/4 of the pond. And it'll give you back water surface. Once you get back water surface, after you do that, then you can start treating it year by year. There's a pellet treatment you can use, and you would do that to help keep down the vegetative material that's going to grow in, and it'll give you tens of years of life in your pond. And again, you're one of 500 municipalities in New Jersey facing this problem right now. So now let's go to my estimate versus Andrew's estimate. When I look at a hydro raking, I need to build you the entire picture as if you're going to hydro rake the whole pond. So I looked at the entire pond. I assumed worse conditions for DEP and for trucking. The DEP has been very flip-floppy year to year. Some years they say hydro raking is good, you can store it on site, you can take it out over 90 days or 6 months, and you have lots of time. Some years they go, you can't do any of that, you have to hydro rake it out and dispose of it immediately and get it out of your town. So depending on how those regulations go to year, and we're going to change years very soon, this cost can fluctuate. What I built for you is what could be the worst case scenario if you did the whole entire pond. I think what Andrew is representing very fairly is that if we work under the best case scenario, which is we hydro rake it out, store it somewhere on the banks of Fister's Pond in various locations, that material can decant or lose its water. Hydro raking material by nature is about 40 to 50% water by volume. So if we leave it there for a period of 3 to 6 months, it will go down in half its size. So 6,000 or 7,000 cubic yards becomes 3,500. So now our cost just got cut in half, which is significant. There is room around that pond. I spoke to Aquatic Analysis again today to leave the material and let it decant or lose its water. The issue is that the best time to decant is the summer months. So if we hydro rake now, which you could do, it's not going to lose any water volume until probably after May. So mid-May, mid-June, July, August, it'll lose all its water content. So if you were to set this project up properly, you'd make it through the winter time, continue your budget or take the money out of open space where you take it, start the project about mid-May. It'd be about a 30 to 60 day hydro raking project. They would store the materials on the banks, leave it there all summer, and sometime in the fall you'd come out and work on disposal of that material. So now, before we get to disposal, is there any questions on the hydro raking portion of it?
Our initial hydro raking and this stage of the process, and Susan, correct me if I'm wrong, was a third of this.
Well, I have the
We're
schedule
looking-
that was originally done. So I have a question.
Sure.
It was 50,000, but are you saying that phase 2 is eliminated for 500,000? Because you're not going to be doing the
No,
minor
so
dredging?
what we'd be saying is now, so when this list was developed, there was no testing of the pond done at the time.
Right.
So now, once once Aquatic Analysis came in and tested it, it changes our philosophy because now we know it's there. So you're really taking 2 and 3 and combining them into one project, which is a larger hydro raking project.
So
With
explain
this
to me.
project, I have a question. So if you combine 2 and 3, and talking about what
Can you say what 2 and 3 are? So
Okay,
we have the
so
details.
2 is minor dredging and installation of sediment control structure, and that was 500,000. And then hydro raking and non-dredged areas of everything was 50,000. But if you combine it, that's going to reduce the cost. Correct?
Not necessarily, because now that we know the volume of hydro raking, we can apply a cost to it now. So we know the depth and volume. So you're looking at a project, that's going to be a combination of those two numbers.
But would that So this is 550,000, what would
Correct.
the combination of those two numbers be?
550.
It's still 550?
Yes.
Even though this is eliminated?
Yeah, but it's not, it's limited being replaced by something else. It's
Okay.
taking it and putting it here.
Okay,
It's
so
taking
there's
two and
no-
moving it to three.
Okay.
So, explain this to me, so now we have from a $50,000 hydro raking bid to a $600,000.
Never had a bid, we never.
Oh, sorry,
Oh.
not, estimate, excuse me, to a $600,000, so it's not, it's more than 3 times, plus
There's more than 3
500,000.
times of the area to hydrate.
But we had that area estimate to begin with.
Not that.
No, we never had, so we never had, it was based on a visual observation from from the edges of the lake without any data in the lake. That's why when we were here, whatever it was, a year ago or 6 months ago, we said, this is literally an estimate or a shot in the dark because we have no data. So Peter Punzi and the Nature Center hired aquatic analysis so we can actually find out what that true number is. The 50 was really a placeholder because we had no idea at the time. It's real. It is what it is. It's a real number. It's not based on. You can't do it for $50,000.
Because the 600,000 plus the 500,000 of dredging, we're already out of our budget that we budgeted for this pond.
No.
No,
You
no,
don't
it's
need.
not
You
in
don't need
addition.
dredging. You don't. It's not in addition. You don't need dredging.
He's saying it's combined phase 2 and 3 are now together.
Right. So you're not going to do a dredging project.
So is
now
it
we're
the
not
same
dredging.
cost?
You're hydro.
Never were.
We're only hydro raking.
Correct.
Is it the same cost? Is this budget gonna go up or not?
No, we want to leave it. We want to leave the budget. No, this budget's not going to change. The 660 is
Okay,
not going to change.
so did you hear what he just said? The
Yeah,
budget is going
660
to
will not
stay the
change.
same.
Mark had his
We're
hand
just-
up in your neck, Andrew.
Are you done?
Okay, so it's the same budget.
So you,
I still got to talk about disposal. What the? Sorry.
so I'm gonna talk about disposal. So the aquatic is $200,000, doesn't include trucking and disposal.
Does not.
Okay, so when we do this worst case scenario estimate, it's one step away from something we can't even deal with because we can't make a decision based on worst case scenario. We really need to know what the accurate cost will be. So the question becomes, how do we get to what the
Yeah.
accurate, because
You
we
ha-
can't say.
You have to bid it. So you have to go out to bid for it.
Okay, but before we do that, how do we get to the issue of why can't we leave this material on site somewhere?
Be-
And how do we get to that answer?
Will it run back into the lake?
The only way, right, as we sit here right now, you can leave it on site. If the DEP changes that January 1st, that changes the rules. They could change it, they've changed it year to year, it's flip-flop a
If they
dozen
change it
times.
January 1st.
We'll know January 1st.
We don't move it, I mean, do we move it from the edge of the pond to some other area to dry
Well, I
out?
would think eventually you'd want to do that. Eventually you'd want to get rid of it. You
Because it
wouldn't
won't
want to leave
just
it there forever.
erode back in, right?
No, it won't erode back in. It'll just keep decomposing, but when it decomposes, it will start to smell.
So just to go back to my question, so if the DEP keeps their current rules in 2020 and allows us to leave it at the Nature Center somewhere, this project could still cost $200,000?
If the DEP.
In other words, as a maximum number.
No, it's gonna, if you hydro rake the 2 acres, and if you follow the process, hydro rake it, put it on the banks of Fister's Pond, let it decant, or let it burn the water off for 3 to 6 months, then you have to move it. Then you're gonna move it somewhere, so the proposal we would propose now, because it's now currently
Sunnyside.
allowed.
Fill
Wait,
Sunnyside
wait.
in.
Yeah, no, it's not, right now you're allowed to do this, you can move it to your leaf compost facility,
Mhm.
mix your leaves with it to harden it a little more, because it's still gonna be a very, very viscous material, and then you then pay to remove it and take it off-site. Can't leave it there.
And that's the mobilization cost.
Right, that's gonna be so
Okay.
your $200,000, probably closer to 3, is gonna become a $600,000 project.
So, but a second ago you said the DEP rules could, right now, today.
Right now, if you apply them today, the project would exist as I just said. But 2 years ago, it did not.
But we wouldn't have to, I mean, I'm a little confused. If it exists as of today, we wouldn't ever have to move anything off-site.
But it would smell
So
bad, so-
you don't have to move it off site, but you're gonna have a decomposing vegetative material that's gonna
Okay.
just stink badly.
Okay.
You would wanna move it off
Okay,
site.
understood.
You would not wanna leave it there. That's why you mix it with the leaves and then truck it out.
Okay.
And somebody makes topsoil out of it, like a vendor would take it, but you pay it.
And Andrew had his hand up, and then Dan, please.
So, just back to the original about the phases. When Mesa came up with most of the dredging, we were very concerned about the damage and the impact it's gonna go to the lake, so that's why
Right.
the committee talked, and you're part of the committee, and
Yep.
we said, let's hydro rake as much as we can and see what we end up with. And that may be okay for 2/3 of the lake. There's a section up north where button bushes have taken over. That is where all the sediment from Montana came and settled. That I would still like to be able to at least, there's a potential for dredging later, but that's an acre or less. So that's a small area. So I wouldn't want us to allocate all the money for hydro raking. I think there should be some dredging, but just a much smaller project that's somewhere along.
Right, the other benefit of hydro raking versus dredging. Under the current state regulations, hydro raking materials are removed as non-contaminated or clean fill. It's not fill, it's vegetative material. When you mix it with your leaf matter, it then makes it 100% vegetative matter, and there's no restrictions on taking it anywhere. You can take it anywhere, any state, any location. Once you add dredged material to it, it needs to become stockpiled, tested, and either be clean, impacted, or hazardous. And you're taking runoff from a golf course and roads into that pond, so it's not going to be clean.
Why would it be any less clean though in that 1 acre than the rest of the pond?
Because the rest of the pond, we're only raking vegetative material out. There's no contamination of vegetative material.
How do we know that,
Sediment.
that those button plants are contaminated?
No, it's he's talking about this fill below the button plants.
Still below. And have we tested that?
Nope, we don't want to.
We don't want to.
We do not want to.
So what do you recommend for the button plants before we?
I mean, I think it's another whole phase that we don't have a good control on the cost of that.
Correct.
You know, the only way to get control of the cost of that would be to actually test it and scope it, and that's a bigger project. I think that's something that it's not critical to the overall health of the pond right now. If you get back to 2 acres of water surface, your pond's gonna have a lot of longevity, a lot of life, and it gives you a lot of years to decide if you wanna do this next section.
Also, a lot of the work, the staging, because it has to probably come off Montana Drive, will be right there where those button bushes are, and those machines can be quite destructive.
The button bushes, they can take those out as part of the hydro. The button bushes are vegetative, so when they go in there, whether they need to take out the wind, they can take out. It's vegetative.
And is
You
that
can't take the
included
soil out.
But is that included in the 600,000?
Well, their accesses, yeah, it's all in that number, yes.
So that, so
Yeah,
it
the
technically would be
access to
3
hydro raking and
acres.
disposal materials, all in the $600,000 number, yes.
Okay.
Dan?
So for disposal, we have a shared service contract with the county, where we can borrow their dumpster, whatever. We can borrow their dumpsters, we can use, if the material they needed, we can mix up their leaves and if they needed topsoil, whatever they needed. Would that lower any of these costs?
It could. I don't want to say I don't want to say absolutely no. My experience with hydro raking projects and mixing it is your county agencies tend to not want it. They tend to say find a vendor who makes topsoil for a living and pay $5 to $6 or $10 a cubic yard and let them and they'll take it away and they won't ask any questions and you get rid of it at a very low cost. If you look at my estimate, I was estimating $30 a cubic yard, but that's because if you had to remove it to a facility that didn't take this, like out of state, because it has happened on projects, then your number goes up 3 times the cost. It's very similar to the size of it. So I think right now you have a very good window right now between what the DEP has put out in email form and legislation to get a hydro raking project bid, get it authorized, get it on the docket for May construction or May done, and get it done and get it done by the end of next year. Because Mazer's environmental folks, within the next year to year and a half, we believe the hydro raking regulations are going to change. And it's going to be much more onerous and require DEP permits and a lot of red tape to do it. Right now, the reason the regulations are very, let's say, mild or beneficial to the towns is because in New Jersey, the state is going through a massive program in Lake Hopatcon and hydro raking, taking out hundreds of thousands of cubic yards of vegetative material.
Mm-hmm.
And if they were to hunker down and make those regulations tight, Lake Hopatcon will die. At least a half of it will die. And Morris County is taking an ungodly amount of vegetative material right now. And no other town in Morris County can bring hydro raking material in. Lake Hopatcon's bringing in 100% of it. That's going to be done next year. They're going to be done with Lake Hopatcon at the end of next year. When that's done, everybody believes, and we hear it through the grapevine, that those regulations are going to change, and you will no longer be able to follow this process. And that cost I gave you will go up at least 20%. At least, if not, it could double.
Jeff had his hand up.
All right. Let me play skeptic for a minute.
Go.
Feeling skeptical. And I like this pond. I grew up here and you know, when I was decades ago as a scout, I was told, enjoy this pond, it's dying. It will not be around much longer because it's naturally inclined to die where it is, that type of pond. So, and I know that we've looked at photographs of the pond from, I forget how many decades ago, compared to today, where the edge of the pond was not significantly changed from where it was then to today. So I'm trying to understand, wrap my head around why all of a sudden, after decades of being told it's dying, picture's not really changing, why 3 to 4 years from now it will be dead.
So you're
What-
looking at
I
a
mean,
surface. You're
things
looking
that-
at the round surface area. Ponds
Right.
don't die this way; they die vertically. So it's, and I wasn't here 10 years ago or 15 years ago, but I'm sure your water depth is less than half of what it was 5 years ago or 8 years ago because it's coming. I mean, in the last year, it's gone up. Just at the dam, we did the dam project. We noticed it being higher. What happens is the pond keeps filling in, filling in, filling in, filling in. Once it gets filled in, then the vegetative material starts to take over. But when you get a frost, that goes away, so it still looks like it has the same surface area, but that water surface may only be that high.
So the bottom line is, we're gonna always be fighting this if we
Every-
want the pond to stay alive, because this
Absolutely.
pond is inclined by itself to die, right?
It's a long-term maintenance project. Well, even after you hydro-rake it, you'll have to start using a pellet treatment yearly.
But how successful will that be in the long run?
It works great. What the pellets do, it knocks down we'll call it the weeds, the milfoils, the water chestnuts. It knocks those down, and then, eventually you'll have to hydro-rake again. But yeah, this is a commitment.
And
It's
so,
a commitment.
approximate cost of the pellets per year, and how many years would you get before you
So
have to
pellets are cheap.
hydro-
We just did this.
hydro-rake?
We just did this in Morristown, 2 ponds. The
Mhm.
Burnham Park is 2 ponds, and probably Burnham Park's 2 ponds is probably half or at least 3/4 the size of this pond, and the pellet treatment was like I think $3,500. It's not
Our estimate was
expensive.
5,000.
What's that?
And-
Our estimate was 5,000.
And you'll get how many years before you'd have to hydro-rake again?
I mean, it's really a function of, it's a function of what's coming into that pond. So the more stuff that brings vegetation into the pond, whether it's geese or upstream runoff, that is what controls. So, if you talk to aquatic analysis, and they're pretty good at this, if you want to control how much you hydro-rake and how much problems you have to start controlling how your runoff gets into your pond. So whether you institute rain gardens before it, or sand filters, or different things, you want to get rid of the pollutants that lower the nitrogen content, lower the oxygen, excuse me, the nitrogen brings it up, and also the phosphates. That is what's killing your ponds and makes the weeds grow at ungodly amounts.
So we're talking about in addition, I'm
No,
sorry,
no,
but
please
I'm
go.
the line, in addition to the pellets, then doing some sort of a sand guard system?
If you want to look at really long-term maintenance, yeah, you might want to do something like that. I'm not necessarily a pond maintenance person. I'm just going with this guy told me with these, a guy like
No,
Aquatic
I get
Analysis,
that.
you could institute these guys to give you full-time, yearly maintenance and contracts to do this stuff. But I would tell you that eventually you would end up hydro-raking again at some point in the future. Hopefully at a lesser rate because you're treating it. Nobody's ever done this pond. So this pond is, I don't know how many years of, think about it, that pond's like almost 4 acres, it's like 3-something acres. That much vegetative material over almost 4 acres. That's like 20,000 cubic yards. It's a massive amount. That took a long time to build up. A long time.
So my question is, the rate of pulling the weeds out in Demarest, and I know Andrew did his work on this,
It was our project.
sure, was significantly less costly.
Pretty expensive project
It
for a small
was,
pond.
but it was still less costly than the estimate we're getting to do the same amount of work. Oh, I'm saying per acre, per whatever square foot or whatever
It's a little different project.
measurement that you want. So I want to know what the difference is.
So the shape
why
of the shape
the
of
price
the pond.
is so different.
Right. So the shape of the pond, it was had very easy access.
Okay.
They also had the ability, a very short distance from the pond to their DPW, to take the material there, mix it with their leaves.
I'm not talking about the mobilization. I'm talking just the hydro raking aspect.
Oh, it's
actually
it's,
going
yeah,
in
it's
and
only,
pulling the vegetation
It's
out.
only like a quarter of the size, and the access was very good. It's a small pond.
But are you doing it at a different or more expensive rate here in Tenafly than you are in Demarest? And if so, why?
a tiny bit because of your access is a problem. Your access both to the pond and around the pond is
So
a bigger problem.
hypothetically, if we can get an access road through private property around this pond, does that solve anything? 'Cause
I
know
mean,
that
if you
that's
can
been
get access,
posed.
if you can get, not really, because three sides of the pond. I don't know where the access road is going to be very long way in. You have to you're going through raw woods, so that's going to be a lot of money to construct an access road. And then when you're around the pond, so your pond's pretty big, getting out, they're going to have to probably use a barge. They'll barge out, clamshell, squeeze, bring back, go back, and they have to keep doing it. It's a bigger pond, like the Denver's pond. They did it all from the shore.
Well, I watched them do the, right off the pier in Demers, they brought in the machines, I actually watched some of it. And they came in from the side, but they still had to take to the other side of the pond, I believe some smaller barge type structure. So why can't we do the same?
You would. It's just a bigger, harder pond to work on. It's in the woods. You're in the
And
woods.
so that tripled the cost?
Well, no. I think if you go back to what I said, it's close to the same cost, but remember, they bid it. So
It's tripled though.
Well, no, it's not tripled. You're clearing area. It's much bigger. So you're not.
I understand it's bigger, but I'm saying, if every square foot is 25 cents, in Demarest, ours is 75 cents for the same square foot. So
I don't
is
think so.
there?
I don't think it is. Why do you say that? You have not bid it yet. You have to.
I
The only way you're
understand
going to know what this cost is to bid it, because the guy bidding it or the company bidding it is going to look at access, time frame, where they can put the material, and that's not counting disposal. You will not know your true cost till you bid this. I've bid 3 ponds in the last year, and all 3 had significantly different costs.
What you're
significantly
saying,
different
what you're
costs.
saying though is the increase in the cost here comparable to Demarest is due to the logistics.
Correct.
And the actual pond itself.
Correct.
We're talking about a bigger pond with more vegetation and a harder location to deal with.
This is a very difficult location.
But if we can
So,
accomplish that, can we reduce?
You have no way of
I
accomplishing
mean, I think the overall question facing us is, do we want to consider this project? Because at best, we're probably talking about $250,000
But
at best.
But what did we budget for it? We budgeted an open space
we
for what,
haven't-
660?
661, yeah,
Well,
about
we put it
597.
aside, but I think using the term budget is not correct, because we never said that we're gonna spend 681.
Well, I agree,
We
Mayor.
just
I agree.
created access to that money if we choose to budget it, and that's the decision that eventually we're gonna have to make. And the sense I'm getting is the longer we wait, the tougher the job. We really either have to make a decision, and the one thing I haven't heard yet is what happens. I mean, I heard you say the pond will die, but what does that mean to the nature center? What does that mean to the environment there? If we do not hydroplane it, what's gonna happen?
I'd like to.
You're gonna have a swamp?
Whole biosphere.
I think you're just going to increase 80% wetlands to 95% wetlands, and you're gonna lose one of the most unique environmental and natural areas of this kind of town of Bergen County. I mean, having that pond is, and I'm not a naturalist, I'm not a hydrologist, I'm a software engineer. It is a unique environment. It is a jewel that people come, I mean, bird watchers come from all over New Jersey just to visit it.
I don't.
From an environmental point of view, Mayor, it's,
I don't wanna go around in circles, but you said something unique in Bergen County. Dan, I know we've talked about it ad nauseum, but is there any way in your mind that we could get some assistance from the county?
They might have a co-op with the hydro rating company, I don't know. But
Don't they-
I was offered their shared services for the disposal.
That's great. That's a huge benefit.
But don't they have a county open space that we could apply, if we're, especially since we're pushing into the next year?
They do have a county open space, and the question is, you know,
We missed that deadline.
how much money would they be willing to throw at it?
The
Mark,
rate was
please?
done.
I think it's gonna be very hard to make a decision until we know what it's going to cost us. And so I think the issue that Andy brought up about bidding it out
It's exhausting.
is the process by which we figure out what it's really gonna cost us. Because otherwise, talking about grants and
I agree.
co-ops
I
and
agree.
stuff, we don't know what we're asking for.
So
We
between
need
Andy and,
accurate pricing.
between
better.
Andy and Susan, is it conceivable that we can go out to bid for the sole purpose of trying to figure out what it's gonna cost us? I mean,
You can't legally.
No.
No,
We
because
need-
we would have to accept the
You have
contract that's
and then you have to
compliant.
award. the
You know, you have a
Decide.
cost, you have a cost that we're saying is about
Oh,
$600,000.
You can
If you're gonna go to bid, you have to assume you're willing to spend that amount.
reject all the bids.
So, are we able to-
reject. You changed your mind to.
One second.
Are we able to put a bid out there where we state the cost cannot, any bid above this dollar will get rejected and we're not doing the project?
So let me state, every job you do is like that. So when you bid a job, you have a cost that goes for it. With us, if it's above that number, you reject it.
Reject the bid.
Anybody can ask for that number.
But we can't do that. We can say,
Unless
all
you
right,
wanna spend it,
We're
yeah.
not gonna spend more than $300,000, but if a bid comes in at $300,000,
You have to
we're
spend it.
locked into it.
Yeah.
What options have we looked at to reduce these costs?
So for hydro raking, the only way to reduce the cost would be to reduce your disposal costs. As far as the actual process of hydro raking,
Shared
there's really nothing you can do. There's maybe 3 companies that'll bid on the hydro raking that we've seen. Other than that, and the numbers are, the only thing that adjusts the amount of hydro raking or cubic yards of hydro raking is literally access. They look at access and how much they have to barge in, barge out, and then once they put it somewhere, how hard it is to get it to a truck. So you don't really, one of the 3 bidders who's going to bid it gave us numbers. You have a real number for the hydro raking.
But is there a difference in pricing between the amount per cubic yard?
It's just their cost to do it. I mean, be really clear. So there's 3 people that bid this. So I had a hydro raking job we bid in Morristown. We're opening bids for the second time tomorrow because out of the 3 companies, only one wanted to bid it, and the guy who bid it said, I know the other guys are busy, they can't bid it, so I'm going to charge you 3 times the cost.
I feel
And
a
we
little bit like-
we rejected it, and we went out to bid again.
Did that happen here? Because I feel like our costs.
It could happen.
I'm
We
saying
haven't
this
bid.
estimate that we got here.
This estimate's your
probably-
worst case scenario. You gotta give it your worst case scenario. You need to know what you could spend.
Can we put a bid that says we will not exceed X amount per cubic yard?
No.
No, it has to be a total.
What are you gonna accomplish by that?
Keep our prices down.
That's not gonna give you.
Dan?
That's like saying that's like giving them a certain tonnage for asphalt. They're just gonna.
But it's such a
you're gonna-
large project that maybe people might, they're still.
It's 3 bidders. 3.
All right, Dan has
You're not
the
gonna get
floor.
4.
This is for both of you guys. Hydro raking in May won't disrupt any breeding seasons, any ecology out there, any timing.
I assume we don't have the same issue we had with the gate.
You have to just wait till the frog breeding season.
Right.
By
It's
mid-May.
not super intrusive.
No, by mid-May it's over.
The
Hydro
frog?
raking won't bother your fish or not. The
Frogs?
fish and that stuff
Yeah.
moves out of the way.
What happens to the frogs if the pond dies?
They jump off the cliff.
So,
You go over the dam.
Once again, we're starting to go around in circles. There's a major decision that has to be made, and that is, do we want to pursue this or not? It does not appear that there's going to be an inexpensive way of doing this. Now, we don't want to use the term that we budgeted this money. The money is there, should we want to use it. If we don't use it, it goes back into the open space fund. At some point in time, this body has to decide whether to move forward with this project. We've been talking about it. I know we've I think, got a clear understanding of what the numbers are, and it's scary. It really is. One other idea that we haven't floated today, is there any way of fundraising? We talked about fundraising for a $7 million project at one point. This is nowhere near that. This is $600,000. If the pond is that important, and I don't doubt that it is there a way we could fundraise it?
I'm sure there was something, but there's a big difference in fundraising with something that one can see that their money built versus something that is the surface of the water looks different. And by the way, Jeff, to answer your question, the surface, the last 2 years I've noticed the lily pads, the clean water has halved. I've noticed that personally. To me, the only the other thing that we haven't really talked about, which is and I think it's a huge impact, I don't know how BID will handle this. So the measurement came up with 6,700 cubic yards to be estimated You guys came back with 18,000.
Well, we just estimated across the whole.
And then
pond.
now I'm hearing from others who gave us a little bit of to the nature center that actually a volume-based estimate is probably 60% overestimating, because for every cubic feet of water, about half of it is water, fine sediment that doesn't come up. So even that 6,700 could be half of what you actually pull up. So we could be dealing with 3,500 cubic feet, and that, I don't know how you bid that, because that's gonna make a huge difference.
That's the disposal side. So on the hydro raking
No,
side,
it's
when
hydro
they-
raking charges
Now,
by
when they
the
hydrate, they
volume.
charge you for the water volume. So they charge you for, when they take it out, they're gonna charge you for that water volume. They're gonna stockpile it and we measure it and charge it. Where you lose the water weight is on the disposal side.
No, I understand.
But they're not overestimating the total project based on vegetation plus water volume, I think is what Andy's asking. Am I-
They still have to move, they're raking and moving that water, they charge you for that.
Oh, yeah, but what comes up is a fraction of the pure cubic space of what they're raking. And we
Correct.
estimated pure cubic space of water, not what actually comes up. So you have these ratios, from what I've been told, that keeps cutting down of how much you actually get to put on land, which is what you measure.
Dan?
Sue, have you talked, do you know who Gerald Reiner is at the county?
No, I don't.
Oh, all right.
What's
Okay,
the
he's
name?
Gerald Reiner, the purchasing agent.
Oh, I know
Jerry,
him.
yeah,
I've
I
talked to
know.
him, yeah. I thought you said Cheryl.
That's
I'm
what I
sorry.
said, sure, I'll tell them.
Yeah, Cheryl, yes.
Yeah. Can you get in touch with them, see if they have a co-op for hydro raking?
Sure.
That'd be huge.
Okay, I think,
Maybe we could form one.
I think first of all, the answer to my question in a roundabout way was no. You don't foresee the ability to fundraise to substantially fund this project.
Not significant amounts, maybe.
Okay, so at this particular point, Dan, I don't know if there's anything that we can get from the county that's gonna make this project feasible. I don't hear at this table a willingness to spend a significant amount of money, despite the fact that if we don't, the pond is gonna die. And I'm-
Yeah, and I could send you, again, we're opening bids in Morristown tomorrow, so I could send you their bids tomorrow. You'll have a real number tomorrow.
I'd like to see that.
A real number for what?
Hydro raking, Foots Pond,
Per
and Morristown.
cubic yard.
But from what I'm hearing, and I'm not an expert, we really don't know how much we're gonna take out.
Well, so you do. So if you go to the aquatic analysis survey, so they've given you a report and a survey. That report and survey would go in your bid. So what happens is you have to rely on that. So they're gonna go in and they're gonna use, any bidder's gonna use that, and that's what they're gonna
Right,
say,
so
that's
if-
what we're gonna do, that's what we're gonna take out.
If they say that, we base the bid on, I'm picking a number out of a hat, 5,000, okay?
They're gonna take out
And they
5,000.
pull 5,000 out, and it's only half done, where are we?
I wish it was that exact of a science, it's not. So that's why you have this, you do this probing survey, because when you're done, somebody can go back in and do a probing survey again to determine the rate. So what happens with the hydro raking project, you make them do the same probing survey after to show that you've reduced the areas you want to the level they want to.
But we may not
Wait,
get, if we commit to,
It is what-
once again, I'm just using.
You're committing to a
an
water,
imaginary
you're
number.
committing to a free board of water is what you're
So we
committing.
may not
For the price.
accomplish what we need to accomplish.
No, you will.
So,
You will.
right now it's 2 feet of sediment, or vegetation, 2 feet of water. We bid out, we need 4 feet of water.
Correct. That's what you're
So
bidding.
I'm
You're
not-
bidding, you're
And then
bidding that. And
they
they're
are-
giving you the cubic yards. Their industry, which again is 3 bidders. Yeah, remember, it's 3 bidders. It's not gonna be 150 people come bid this. They're all gonna look at the same results and go, okay, you want 4 feet of water, that's it's gonna cost you this much to hydrate.
So I wanna ask the 5 of you, what additional information you feel you need to make a decision? Mark, you had your hand up.
Sure, I support saving the pond. I think it's an important thing to do. I would just like to have a better sense of what the cost will be, and we're in court in a catch-22 where we can't bid it unless we're committed to the money, but we don't know how much money it is, so we can't make that commitment. If we can get a better handle on what our real cost is going to be, then I think it's much easier for the council to make a decision. to
Yeah,
move forward with bidding.
I can give you Morristown's numbers tomorrow. Keeping in mind, they have very good access. Their access is excellent at that pond.
But we
It's
might,
gonna-
Dan, you say there's a
Right down the
possibility we
front
could
path,
co-op
right?
with the county on
No, if the
disposal?
county's co-op has a hydro raking contract,
No, I'm talking about disposal.
we already have our shared services agreements. We passed it this year.
So what does that do to the, what cost saving of the project?
We have to, I'd look, I
It's
don't
like
know, I don't,
50,000
see, I have to see what the.
Well, if your
is.
numbers include disposal and
If they'll take it
50.
for free, it's just gonna be the truck.
I don't know, that's what I'm asking.
Usually you pay, let's just round it to $10 a cubic yard to take it away, for somebody to take it. So if
But
they'll
what-
take it for free, it's just minus 10.
Right.
It's a great, it's a big, it's a, you know, it's a $150,000 savings.
Well, can you possibly give us some input as to where Morristown is going?
No, Morristown's a bad example, because Morristown is gonna pay to take it to a site in Pennsylvania. It's gonna cost them $30 cubic yards, dollars a cubic yard. It's a, you don't want, we're gonna just look at the hydro raking portion.
Okay, fine.
You don't wanna look at the disposal portion.
Jeff, please?
Right, so I'm not a big fan of kick the can down the road, but if we are able to find out at least if hydro raking is something that there's a co-op for by the next meeting, then I think having the answer to that will eliminate or tell us something really important, and then we have to make a decision, and we have to pick a reasonable amount that we're gonna say that the bid's gonna have to be that. If we wanna do this, and I think,
I think we do.
Well, I agree that the pond's been around, it's been dying, it is a gem. We just need a sense of, do we even want to invest in saving it? That's really the first question the council has to.
Well, I agree.
So,
I have a question for Susan.
For,
That'd be great.
For Susan. Okay, so we do a bid, we put 650 in it, or whatever.
They give you what
Okay,
they're
fine.
gonna bid it out.
Do a
Well, you
bid.
have an estimate, you have an
We
estimate.
know.
We have an idea, we
Yeah.
believe it's 650. They go to do the work, and again, as Andrew says, we're pulling out twice as much stuff, it's dense, you know, it costs 3 times as much to mobilize and move it.
Well, no, if you bid, the bid's a bid, and they're gonna bid, that's gonna be all included in your bid.
All
You're not- you
included,
can't-
all
you're not gonna-
steps, no matter what they
No,
find
yeah,
in
yeah,
the
of course.
If it's more than the bid though, then you can reject it and rebid.
Correct, but she's saying
But-
during construction, what if you run into a problem? That's their-
Or
that's
I'm
if-
their-
saying
then you
because-
have to do a supplemental.
Yeah, well, that's their
ordinance,
issue,
and-
yeah.
So I just wanna back up, like, we did the gate, and then it cost a little bit more, and then things cost a little bit more, I just felt
We
like
made a
that
change,
creeped up.
the gate was different, we made a
Still within
change,
the
we made changes
budget.
to the project.
Right, so are we foreseeing the same kinds of things here? Should we be prepared for that? Should we be cushioning?
well, almost
or-
every one of our major projects has had change orders. And for the most part, change orders add rather than subtract to the cost. And that's my concern, that, you know, even if we are hold them to the number that is bid, will the end result be exactly what we're looking for, or is it going to be a little less because that we're unable to get all of the material out that we wanted out?
Well, the end result's gonna be, they're gonna give you a water surface elevation depth of X, that's what the end result's gonna be. And, you know, that survey is gonna, we're relying on a survey that Peter Punzi got from Aquatic Analysis to say, hey, this is what we want our surface to be, or depth to be after we're done.
So I think the only variable left is to find out if they have a co-op for hydro raking. And once we get that answer, we have to make a decision.
And I'll give you the Morristown, again, I can give you both Morristown bids, this is the second time the video, so I'll give you both of them.
And the earliest we can start the work?
At this point, you wouldn't start till May.
We could have 2 things.
You have time.
Is there any such thing as hydro raking part of it? You know, like
Yeah.
you know,
You're hydro raking in phases.
You know, so you're saying 4 feet and doing maybe 2 feet now, saying put it out for.
So what Aquatic Analysis told us on other projects, Morristown being one of them, was you can do it over a 3-year period. You just keep chipping away at that vegetative material. So as you hydro rake it, you kind of go up the center. As you hydro rake it, it slides in. You go up center, it slides in. So you take 2 feet of vegetative material, make it 1.5 feet, then make it 1 foot, and then make it 6 inches. You could do
So
it.
kind of looking at it
You
like
could do it over a 3-year
like a
period.
road program where it's red, yellow, and green, and you've got
Right. The
you know.
dangerous part, if there is a dangerous part of that, is what if you do a 1-year project and knock it down 6 inches and the state changes the regulations on you? Then you're into a process where you have to get permitting and other things that could stop the whole
Or
project.
I'd like to see the proposal at the state level for what you're talking about. I'd like to see some paperwork on that. I'd like to read out, if you have anything.
I have nothing on it. I just,
It's
it's
just-
not, it's.
So what do you?
Doesn't
It's
exist
It's an
yet.
ugly world, right? There's no legislation, it's a determination made by the individuals at the Department of Environmental Protection oversee the project.
So it's completely hypothetical at this moment.
It's completely arbitrary.
Okay.
It's, the department that oversees it makes random decisions year to year.
Okay.
I'd like to move on. I think we've covered
Andy,
this
thank
as
you.
well.
No,
as
no
we
problem, no
can
problem. If you have any questions, I'll get you Morristown. I said it
Yeah,
to you.
absolutely.
Next item on to be considered is the
Well,
ordinance
it's not happening.
19-19, which is the parking
Thank you.
restrictions.
Thanks, Andy.
So I'll put this
Thank
on,
you.
and
Thank you.
if I had sent pictures around, Omar, sorry, it came a little late, but I ran around taking some pictures. So if everyone wants to go to those pictures. Excuse me. So, only some of these are the mom, some of these are some of the other streets that'll come out tonight. So what happened was we had passed an ordinance, earlier in the year to put up additional parking signs in and around some of the schools because there were some safety concerns and, parents had complained that, at least the homeowners and the parents had complained about the way the traffic for school drop-off and pickup was happening. So we, when I say we, the police, traffic department analyzed it and we voted and we put up signs to restrict parking. And as the mayor said, unintended consequences occurred. What is happening, at least I'm seeing in my own carpool, and many of the parents have spoken out to me on this issue and asked to be, before council, is that the more limited parking on the closer streets, the effect is that it's sending the kids farther out to get picked up. So parents are allowing their children to walk past our crossing guards to areas that, number one, aren't, protected as school pickup. Number two, don't have crossing guards or any other parental eyesight. Number three, don't really have the sidewalk capacity to have kids in and out. So the kids that I see now are, and I don't know if it's kids or parents, but the kids at least that I'm seeing as I wait on the carpool line in front of Councilman Bennon's house are coming in the center of the street. Parents are picking them up, bypassing the carpool line. Children are walking to farther streets than Mayhem, which is behind Baum School, past County, to other streets that really there's just no visual protection there, no crossing guards. And so we don't really have a very good solution here. I think the school, I would like to propose this also for joint use meeting, I think this would be appropriate. But the school, at the moment, in the way they're running the carpool, can't really change its procedures because we're in the middle of a development, and the houses there really are saying, look, you can't block my driveway and park and pick up your kids. At the same time, parents are saying, I have no ability to safely pick up my kids close to the school anymore because we've restricted a lot of the areas in which they used to go. So there's been a lot of discussion about this, and I thought I'd bring it up, and I've spoken with the chief briefly, but I'm gonna throw it back up to the chief, if you don't mind, just to discuss it and let people know who are watching the video what the deal is.
Sure. My recollection of how we arrived is a little bit different than yours. This
Okay.
is something that's been an issue for a couple of years. The problem at Mullen School, little history lesson, but we have 6 public schools in town. All of them, but Mullen School, have the luxury of having 2 or 3 streets to do unloading and unloading. Mullen is unique. Mullen has basically 1 street to do the unloading, to Magnolia. So that's almost impossible to change. So what does that do? So now everyone's bottlenecked into the front of the school, which is Magnolia. So, people do drop off, pick up 2 different ways. They do it either by, some people want to park their car and walk little Johnny or Jenny to the school, and vice versa, park their car and walk up, get their kid, and go back to their car, which works very well, and something we like that. Or we've designed, like we've done at every other school, is a drop-off pickup line, where basically we've eliminated all the parking in front of the schools, and now basically it's just a line and people come in, they drop off, and they leave and pick up. It's the same thing. So the traffic bureau over the last few years hasn't, going back to when I was in the traffic bureau, that school's always been very, very challenging. The roads are very, very tight. Population is increasing, we keep, every single family house that gets knocked down is a duplex or development, we keep increasing everyone, it's a volume, it's a math equation, there's only so much volume out there. Everyone wants to drive their kid to school, what are you gonna do, right? So, there's some limited one-ways over there also too, but the Traffic Bureau recognized these problems over the last couple of years, and we discussed it, and we're talking about putting some minor restrictions in, which we looked at for quite some time, and we made some recommendations which you did approve, and we're talking about like a lot of parking spaces that have been removed. This ordinance, 1919 that was actually approved, actually took away 3 parking spaces, 3 on Mahan Street, and 5 on Sisson. 8 spaces. And we don't take parking spaces away to inconvenience anyone. We do it, it's 2-pronged. We have, we've had a lot of pedestrians get hit in town. We have safety issues with pedestrians walking and safety issues. We also have a lot of people that are very, very upset with traffic in town because cars can't drive anywhere. So you need to move people safely, but you also need to get the motoring public moving also too. So these changes here, what they did was, in the sections where traffic is very tight and bottlenecked, we basically just created some offsets. We pushed traffic back a little bit from the intersection of Mahan and County.
Prospect.
Well, Prospect, that was done years ago. But Mahan leads the county road. You park cars on both sides of the street, you have 1 lane, basically. Well, it's a 2-lane road. So how do you put two-way traffic on 1 lane? So we took some parking by the intersection to create basically space for cars that come in there. So that's why that was designed. And then Sisson, up by the curve, what that is, it's a blind curve. And people go around, they can't see them, so we took cars over it. And then also too, factor in the leaves, factor in snow. The road gets more narrow and narrow. So basically that's why we did that. We understand it's a very difficult school. We know people have to walk a little farther back to get to their cars. I mean, ideally, you can wait in line and do drop off from the school or pick up. It's not perfect. We're always going to look to try and make improvements. Something.
Well, let me, hey, Bob, you got a second? One possible mitigating factor is leaves. Now, we're talking about the traffic congestion around Morm School. Have we made any sort of an effort to keep those roads a little clearer? I know that we pick up leaves so that on Monday mornings there's not stacks there. But, some of the pictures I've seen, and look, now we're in the height of leaf season, it's coming down. But is there any way that same with the snow, is there any way that we can try and keep Magnolia and Sisson particularly, and maybe that end of Prospect clearer than it is now?
It's pretty clear now.
No, I'll show you.
Okay.
This is my car yesterday, I just wanna put this picture up.
At the last
I
council
parked-
meeting, I stated that we were going to do every weekend in November, do around the schools. We have no
Okay.
control of what the homeowners do.
No, I understand.
And how and when they put their leaves out. There's nothing we can do about
Is
that.
there-
We have no control over that, but the only control I have is to get in there when the area is wide open and clean it up. And that's what we can do on Saturday.
It is fair that it's unrealistic to think they're gonna be able to clean the leaves off the street during school hours because the cars are there. And so, Chief, in your mind, we asked you the last time to have the Traffic Bureau look this over. Are there any improvements that you as a professional would recommend? Because we would like to make this work as best as possible. You've described the issues, and it really is terrible. I mean, there's just one street, there's so many cars, and I for one, believe that the traffic flow is better than it used to be. The traffic flow, but people might have to park a half a mile further away. Driving by, I can't tell you about the parking, but I can tell you that compared to 2 or 3 years ago at pickup time, there's a much better flow of traffic there, Smith, and even Stillman, I think, more.
Mhm.
But what I'm hearing is the concern about where people have to park.
Or the kids walking farther out to meet their parents, that's,
Right. So
that's
I
the
mentioned,
concern.
we took away 8 spaces, which is not a heavy lift. Now, we did take away spaces for the drop-off pickup line years ago, but it's a drop, there's cars there. It's just that if no one's parked in them, they're just moving. If someone parked there, right, then basically, the reason, prior to the drop-off pickup line, what you had was you had cars parked on both sides, and then you had the drop-off pickup line in the middle of the road. And no one went in.
Nobody moved.
So this kind of does, this moves, now there was some talk about actually, because right now, Magnolia is a one-way between Prospect and Sisson. There was talk, we did look into making Magnolia one-way from Hudson all the way to Highwood. It's a long stretch, everyone's pointing in the same direction, and everyone's gotta go down the same that ways. But you got a lot of residents who would have to, I mean, you live there, would you want that? You know, something.
He's right in the middle of the carpool lane.
Yeah, so,
That's one way south.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
You know,
there's,
but-
there's one other question. Go ahead.
I think what that leads to is predictability. When you have the changes
Right.
of, you know, sometimes it's one way, sometimes it's 2 ways, and, you know, it breaks up in the middle, and then you have, you know, the crossing guards kind of coming in and you know, giving their directions. I think it creates a more of a mess during that time.
Well, there's one other
So-
factor that we've never really discussed, and that is where the people that work at Warm School park their cars.
Mhm.
Okay, there's a little lot with 8 or 10 spaces.
That's great.
When
They have no parking lot.
When I drive by
Very small.
during school hours before pickup,
Right.
you'll see a long line of cars in Magnolia. Now, if those those obviously teachers, they have to park somewhere. But if those cars weren't there, now you have a lot more availability. The question is, where do you put them? I used to have a continual complaints from people in Mahan when we allowed parking on both sides of Mahan, because that's where a lot of the staff people park, and people couldn't get out of their driveways. So by making it one side of the street on Mahan, that solves that problem. Where can we put these employees' cars?
We need carpooling.
Actually, you're 100% right, Mayor, because they have the closest spots, almost the entire length, which would be the safest place for drop-off and pick-up for the kids. You know, they could cross with the crossing guards and go, and there's a sidewalk, and almost all of those spots are teachers. And actually, I've learned this because I have one particular teacher who leaves at exactly 3:10. He pulls out, I pull in, and I wait for him. in
Would
particular.
it help
But-
if we did not allow employees to park between Morm School
You can't do that.
and Sisson?
You can't do that.
Well, maybe you have 3-hour parking.
They have
I mean,
nowhere to
I mean,
go.
You know what I'm
They
talking
have
about?
just
They've
nowhere
got
to
a right
go.
to
You push
occupy
them
the
back,
street.
you push them down Magnolia closer to Highwood, but it frees up that street in front of Morm School and between Morm and, what is it, Sisson? I mean, I'm not a traffic professional, but I do believe the only variable that we could possibly address at this particular point is where the employees park, and I'm not sure what the answer is, I just know what the question is.
So,
Mark, and then, Warren?
Did you finish your thought?
okay.
So, so we're looking at it kind of like, you know, 8 spots here and employees have to park. Have we ever looked at it a little more broadly, like if we needed a place for the employees to park, and that would ultimately help the parents getting the kids to school? Maybe we need to find a different place for the employees to park that's specifically for them.
Good luck with the teachers union to getting them to do that.
Well, you know what?
Getting them to do what, no, what do you mean? I mean, finding a different
There's just-
parking spot for them.
Lauren, you know the area because you're
I do
you're
this
there
every day.
Let me ask you a question. There is a space, you know where the small lot is.
Mhm.
If you head west towards County Road,
Sure.
there's a little grassy area there. I don't know, and I believe the schools own that property. There may even be a house down there that property they own. Does it make sense to consider building a parking lot for the employees north of the field, north of the playground? I think there's space there that they own.
You know, it's under construction, I believe.
The
And-
house?
Well, there's a house being across the street from the playground, and there's a,
No, I'm talking about
North of the playground.
North?
north of the playground, just west of the small parking lot. I believe the school owns that property, and
Yeah, just one
I mean,
second.
this mom school also, I mean, I'm open for all suggestions, but that is a green space that is utilized by the gymnastics classes and the outdoor. I would hate to reduce the children's area.
I don't like the idea
And
either,
it's
but
clearly not our
I think
purview
the
to
only
decide.
the only real solution to this is to get those cars off of Magnolia, and I'm just trying to figure where we could put them.
But I have to say, this whole thing is compounded, because right now what's happening is we're restricting the parents and they're going farther out the kids are now going further out, to put the teachers further out, everything just keeps spreading, and what's gonna happen is we're gonna interrupt traffic on not just 6, but 11 streets.
I don't think that's something, I don't think we have to restrict any further, it's not gonna be any worse. This is the happy medium, to try and provide a safe environment for people like to move around, but also for cars to be able to navigate through there.
So, can I?
Is there some sort of behavioral pattern that we could try
Yeah,
and
that's
institute
where I'm going.
to,
Yes,
to make things better?
carpooling.
Oh, it'll never happen,
Carpooling,
Chief.
No.
Walking,
Walking to school.
busing, but people wouldn't bus.
I thought you were a realist.
So,
Yeah.
can I actually make a proposal? So one of the things I'm seeing is, and I'm not blaming any particular school, or any particular person, but I am seeing a real lax attitude by this school, and I hear it in the high school, middle school, of, the parents who are actually not following the rules, not getting slaps on the wrist or anything. I'm not looking to come down on my mom community with anything, but I would like to see an effort, maybe we bring this up in joint use, from the school side to just explain to the parents, we'll do our best to get your kids out, but here's the safety rules you need to follow. Please don't have your child walk an extra 2 or 3 blocks without supervision or without sidewalks or whatever it is, and get in on a passenger side in the middle of the road. I would like to see more of that push. I know we had brought this up about school crossings and safety, but maybe we have parking safety and regulations and have a little bit more enforcement from the school. I don't know how you would do that. I will say that people had come along Mahon in the past couple days and they've been ticketed, and they were not happy about that from our police department. I'm just throwing it out there. And so I'm not going around looking for people to get ticketed.
We don't enjoy that,
No,
something,
yeah.
again, like I said, it was to try and create,
They're
better-
enforcing rules that we created.
Better flow of
Agreed.
traffic.
I'm
If we
just
don't
saying.
want them ticketed, we shouldn't have the rules.
Now.
Just saying, it can't all fall on us. It has to be
Yeah.
school board as well.
No, you were speaking. I was waiting for you.
Oh, so your parents hear something, maybe you're upset with it, something, there's room for improvement, but also to a lot of these complaints also came in, something the first week or two of school. And I always say this also too, something that the first week or two of school in every school district, or every school in town, we have new parents to the school, we have new kindergarten parents, we have new 6th graders going to middle school, we have new freshmen going to high school. Parents don't know that system. And also too, the parents that used to know the system forgot about it over the 3 months of summer, had to get reacclimated to the system. Not that, something that, this should, I'm not sure, this isn't a cop action, but basically, you get conditioned to it. And some of the parents that kind of were very upset in the beginning, you kind of know the system, you find out what works for you, and things tend to settle down. We always have this great concern in the beginning of the school year, and it wanes because we find out the system, we find out what works for us.
I think this might be just something we should
Mark,
keep
did you want to add something?
revisiting for mom.
Finish it, okay.
Go ahead.
So I remember, so I live on Hamilton Place by Stillman School. And so, to your point about conditioning, there's certain times in the morning and the afternoon, I simply have been conditioned over the decades that I don't leave my house at that time because people need a place to pick up their kids. But I do remember years ago on the street opposite my street on Windsor, they basically, the school, I'm sure in conjunction with the town and the police department, created more parking spots, took some of the green outside of the fence there along Windsor and created more parking
Right.
spots. And what I'm suggesting is, notwithstanding your comments about people getting conditioned, it's early in the year, maybe we need to start thinking, whether it's this north parking lot area, wherever it might be, about having something very close by, kind of look at it from space, and where's the spot that's closest to get the teachers in, to get them off the street so there's more room for the parents to park.
Well, that school, unlike all the other ones, has the smallest parking lot. All the other schools have a decent size, that school, it's a small,
So
it's a tight grid,
so-
it's one road to drop or pick up, and it's no parking.
So my question is there potential or a way to expand that parking lot?
That's Board of Education question.
So.
We'll bring it up at joint use.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm
We
gonna-
bring it up at joint use, yeah.
I'm definitely gonna take a walk back there, and look, nobody wants to lose green space.
Of course not, right.
But on the other hand,
Kids have to go to school.
well, if there's a problem, we need to address it, so. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
I have a quick question while you're here. I had raised a question near Magnolia and Prospect.
About the four-way stop?
About the four-way stop.
Yeah.
What goes into the evaluation of whether a four-way stop is appropriate?
You know, I don't have the MPCD in front of me, something which is the manual uniform traffic control devices, but basically
Okay.
stop signs are put in place, is something obviously
I wrote it
to
down.
let people cross, or if you have crash data, you get a lot of crashes, if you don't have a lot of crashes. They're not supposed to be put in place, they're absolutely not used for speed control. And ideally, four-way stops are not, shouldn't be long-term. Have a couple of long-term ones, they frown upon them as long-term solutions, but I don't believe it would meet the criteria there.
And while I have you, there was a resident that had requested yellow curving on the corner of Edmund and Christie. If I can add that to your list to look at.
Esmond?
Esmond and
Esmond.
Christie. And so.
That's McKay School.
It is, and so they've asked for setbacks, because actually school parents are parking.
I think
close-
it's already there.
There's some on Esmond County, from what I understand, but not on the Christie side.
Esmond doesn't move to county?
Esmond to
No.
Power.
Well, East Clinton, I'm sorry, East Clinton.
No.
You know, I don't know geography. But it's on Clinton side and not on the Christie side.
So you're talking about West Clinton?
Yes, it was
West-
West Clinton.
West Clinton.
West Clinton's over there.
How am I doing?
You're doing fine, you're getting
All
better.
right, thank you.
They're not perpendicular.
Are you guys talking about Harold Street tonight?
Yes. That's the, red.
Yes, that was one of the letters.
You want my input on that?
Yes,
I know what it's gonna be, but sure.
I definitely do.
Well, what exactly are they asking for?
Well, they're asking, to eliminate the restrictions, because some of their staff has gotten tickets for parking there. But if I'm not mistaken, my memory's correct, the reason there's restrictions there is they asked for it.
Forget about
They did, a long time ago, but now they went undone.
Yeah, and I said to Rabbi Shane, I said, if you eliminate those restrictions, you're gonna have everybody parking in, not just your people.
Honestly, if they weren't lifted, I have no problem with it.
Question for you. I took a walk down that street also. I noticed
Harold?
Yeah, on Harold, that the western side of the street appears to be along a curb line and the eastern side of the street. So is it possible to switch which, and I'm not sure if the rabbi would want necessarily
I think that
want
was,
that?
like a
Seemed
security,
to-
that was almost a
Security issue?
security
Okay,
issue.
that's
The
it.
building's so close to the sidewalk.
Right.
And post 9/11, in the
Okay.
wake of 9/11, you know, something with car, whatever, something, but, yeah. I
Okay.
think it's, but the 3-hour parking, they want it lifted?
Well, would you, so your recommendation is if they want it?
You know what's gonna happen?
But keep
They're gonna want it back.
I know. I don't think that's
I-
gonna, I don't think that's gonna solve their problem.
I think that, this is what's gonna happen. I think other people, other businesses.
Will use the spaces
There's
also.
very little all-day parking in the downtown area.
Yeah.
People sniff it out. And all of a sudden they're gonna go, oh, I can park here? And it's not gonna work to be something, but listen, you wanna lift it, it's one less thing I have to enforce.
You lift it, save the signs.
Yes.
Is there any concerns about the ambulances? Because I know the ambulances.
Right now it's
for
fine because
County Manor
there's
come
no,
with the bad side.
there's no, actually something, it's wide enough to get them down there, it's fine.
With the
Well,
cars
there's
in it.
parking on only one side of the street,
Correct,
and there's no pickup or drop off on that street.
right.
You good?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, chief.
Last but not least is overview of the 2019 best practices in inventory.
Right,
That's gotta be you.
yes. So every year as a requirement by the Division of Local Government Services, the CFO has to certify what they call a best practices inventory. And that inventory determines whether or not you'll be eligible for state aid. So we were asked a series of questions. Certain questions are, do you post certain things on your website? Did you have any repeat audit findings? Do you count for all time of employees worked? These are some of the questions that they asked. So out of 53 eligible scoring questions, we scored 39.5. You had to score greater than 32 to not have your state aid withheld, so we complied, and we'll get state aid. And there were 84 questions on the inventory, and 31 of them were unscored. The Division of Local Government Services this year utilized the best practices inventory questionnaire to include a survey, which was something new this year. And the survey was done to see if there was any interest from municipalities to obtain technical assistance from a newly created department, which is called the Local Assistance Bureau. And they also have assistance from the Office of Local Planning Services. They could provide assistance in areas of training and support for elected officials, capital improvements, land use mapping, and more. So I did check yes for many of the items, it's just to show that we have an interest. We don't have to, you know, take them up on this offer, they're just searching right now, but it is a good thing to find out. And the best practices will probably be submitted to them tomorrow, the deadline is Wednesday, October 3rd.
Okay,
Makes sense.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's move on to the administrator's report.
Okay, so you should all have the report. Lizette is recovering from, you know, being out, and prior to her taking the lead, she worked very hard on making sure that she would have this memo for tonight's meeting. So the first item is potential grants, and we met on October 7th, Lizette, myself, and Omar, with the grant writer, and
The grant writer being whom?
they were from Mazer,
Okay.
and Kelsey, we also met with Bob, the DPW administrative consultant. We went through a series of what we think our capital plan will be as we know it today. I asked for different departments to give me some items of what their wish list is, and I also compiled data from what they gave to me in last year's 5-year plan when we were preparing our budget. And then they went through a detailed list, and some of the items, as you can see, that Lizette listed were the items that were identified so far that we may be eligible for: pedestrian crossing signs, procuring football helmets, communications equipment, infrastructure repairs, street lighting, and a series of other things. Let's see, there will be a formal presentation at the December 3rd work session, and an explanation will be provided of the funding sources, and potential applicants will be addressed.
I have a question. So when you talk about the expanding the flashing pedestrian crossing sign program, are you talking about getting more flashing signs for the crossings that are already there, or potentially adding new crossings altogether?
You know what, I don't have all the details
Okay.
on it yet,
Okay.
but
So
that's why at the
that's great.
presentation.
Hello?
Yes. Oh, hi, Lizette. Maybe she has the details.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not gonna let moving a couple of organs and being all full of stitches stop me from doing my job. The flashing signs is to buy more, or we're looking into buying for more crossings to catch up, or to buy the more expensive ones that are the solar powered push button to replace some that are in other locations. So we're looking at the whole program, the whole gamut, whether it's buying more of what we have or buying upgraded versions and then replacing what we have and putting the current all the time flashing into other locations.
Okay, so does it also include potentially new crossing locations that aren't there now?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Instead of buying 2 signs a year, hopefully buy more.
Okay, thank you.
That's good news.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Lizette.
You're welcome.
Okay, so the next item was the TVAC trailers. So on October 4th, we met with Cheryl Reynolds, the TVAC president, someone from the Mobility's Modular Space Inc., and myself, Lizette, and the DPW administrative consultant, Bob Colbert, and they discussed leasing a trailer, and upon that discussion, they sent us a proposal, and we had a proposal. The lease would be a 5-year lease. The annual cost would be $21,600 or $1,800 a month. Total for 5 years, a 60-month lease was $108,000. Installation would be $93,000. In addition to that, installation would be $93,113. Then today I received, because he didn't do what they call a buyback purchase, what I just told you about the lease program would be out of operating our current fund. If we decided to do a buyback purchase, that could be through capital. And I received that data today, which would be a finance lease for $1,087, which is $87 more a month for 60 months, totaling $113,220. And the installation would be exactly the same. At the end of the lease, we would buy.
Wait, I'm sorry, can you go? back
I'm
it up?
sorry, I'm going a little fast.
Yes, you are. So back it up. So in the buyback program, say the number again, 120 per
The
year?
buyback
Or just
program
one-time
is-
fee?
The buyback program is $1,887 a month, which is $87 more a month than the lease program out of operate. This is gonna be out of capital,
So that's okay.
okay? Would be out of capital, I'm not saying it is, it depends on what you guys wanna do if we do this project.
Okay.
And it would be for 60 months, and it would be $113,220. The installation is exactly the same,
Mhm.
$93,113. And we would then buy the trailer at the end of the lease for $1. So this would be worked out with bond counsel and the auditors to determine the project plan in the capital. It would be a capital though. So I didn't get to talk to Jason yet about how this is done. I haven't done this yet, but that's your alternative. And then we could, Lizette and I had discussed this. Then at the end, if you do decide to go with the capital project and we buy it, then we could also auction off the trailer at the end.
Has anyone made the determination that the trailer can hook up in the right space in front of our T-back, and we've done all that work?
Correct.
I'm gonna turn it over to
Yeah,
Cheryl.
Cheryl.
They actually are gonna design, we're having 2 showers, a bathroom, which was not in the beginning part, but because of the new regulations, it has to have a bathroom. It would have 2 separate sleeping quarters. It would have a TV room in the front so that somebody could go in there and, there would be the 2 sleeping areas, which would hold 6 beds total. And the TV rooms with 2 rooms out there with the chairs, they could sleep out there as well. That they would have the showers, which is the biggest plus that we need, and then they wouldn't have to go outside to go to the bathroom, so that's even better. It would go where our 2 trailers are now, next to the building. We would move those 2 trailers over to another parking space, and that would be, because the boiler room is right behind there, they could hook up to the water, and they can, the ground is already set so that we could pretty well, he said it would be the very easiest setup to do.
Does it need a septic system?
No, we have to look into tying into the existing lateral in the building.
Collateral of the building, yeah.
So, so in terms of, does the installation cost include all those plumbing and electrical hookups to the?
I have to just double check with them. I don't believe it.
The foundation's here, the electrical connections,
Yeah, and the fire
plumbing,
system.
the plumbing is $12,000.
Plumbing connection.
So that's part of the
I
93?
still have to provide him a
Okay.
super lateral to tie into, and I also have to supply him with some.
So it's a trailer, but once it's set on the foundation, it's, what kind of foundation? Is it like a concrete block foundation, or is it a slab?
If they need it, it's just gonna probably be like a construction trailer where they mount it on the four corners, and then
Oh,
they anchor
okay.
it down so it doesn't blow
So it
over, and
includes
they put
everything.
skirt around the bottom.
Right.
I haven't seen a picture.
I haven't seen pictures.
Right, so, they will design it to our satisfaction inside, and so this would definitely be a major plus for us
Oh,
as far
okay.
as having people from out of town that,
Painted orange.
that don't have to sleep on the floor anymore, and we're supposedly, our snow standbys, which we come down and we now are sleeping on the floor, sleeping on couches, and we really don't have any room, and there is actually no showers.
This is kind of like the setup the police department in Dumont is using?
It's actually kind of the setup that our own police department had when they were building their
Right,
new
right,
building.
right, that's
Same
good.
kind of situation, they had showers, they had a
Right.
bathroom, they had,
It worked out
now we
fine.
could go over to where the police department
No,
had
you're
theirs,
better off where you are.
but the
Yeah.
thing is, at 3:00 in the morning, nobody's gonna
Right,
wanna walk
right.
clear across the parking lot,
Agreed.
and to go on a call.
Okay, next
I have a
is,
que-
oh,
I want to see some.
Question. So, I mean, it's an expensive, so the whole project, wait, Susan, the whole project total, what was it, 93?
The whole project
Was
to
100.
install was 93,113, whether you do capital or operating. And then there's a lease per month for 5 years. And then you have to determine which way you wanna go. So this wouldn't be done until 2020, and we would put it in the temporary capital budget. Because of the time frame where you
Yeah,
you
we're,
wanna
it's,
get it done so
it
fast.
takes anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks to build this, and then they have to bring it, then they have to install it, and the soonest we could, if we do it from this meeting forward, the soonest we could get one is in August. So now we're looking at a whole nother year to
It's
get.
gonna take that long to build it and
Yes.
install it.
So
Yes.
this, here's
Wait,
my
why is it
question.
gonna take that long?
Because it takes 8 to 12 weeks to actually,
If we put in the capital temporary, it would still take that long?
he said the soonest we could get it
Well,
would be
the
August.
process is you have to determine how to fund it. And if you do it through regular capital or temporary capital,
Right.
you have to do it by ordinance, introduce, adopt, and then you have to wait for the estoppel period before you issue any contracts. And the estoppel period is 20 days from publication of adoption. So if we do the temporary capital in late January, adopt in February, we could issue a contract in about mid to late February, and then the 8 to 12 weeks takes place there. If you put it under the regular capital, funding after the estoppel period is usually after Memorial Day.
Right.
And that's where you get that August date. And the one good thing is, with this company, they are a vendor under the Keystone Purchasing Network, which we are a member of. So we don't have to take time out to go out to bid or solicit quotes because we're a member of this cooperative.
So here's my question. It's a large budgetary price.
Mhm.
Would you find reconstruction of the inner workings of the current TVAC office, 2 bathrooms,
No.
rec, kitchen?
Absolutely
Would
not,
that
'cause-
be a better use of the money?
Because there's still, we only have 2 rooms, as you saw them when we were down there, we have
Yeah.
2 rooms. So the kids come down there, there are kids that stay up all night long studying, and there's kids that wanna sleep, so there's no place for them to
Well,
go.
that's what I'm
and-
asking.
And for them, the showers, and like I said, we also have now members that actually some live out of town, but they still wanna ride with us, so they could spend the night in the trailer and get up the next morning and go to work or whatever instead of, and that keeps our membership up. So, in that sense, that this is much better,
You like this option? That's what I'm
absolutely,
asking. If
much
we-
better, because this would give them a chance that they could go to sleep, and the building could still be opened up for everybody else to come in all hours of the night to do what they wanna do.
I have another question. I've
Mhm.
spoken to a couple parents, and some of them say, you know, it's nice that you're gonna have a separate, I guess, you know, because I've raised, oh, would you be interested in this? And they, so I wanna know, how many of the high school or younger kids are staying over, and, you know, what are
Well, they only
numbers
have to
staying
stay over on the Saturday rotation. The Saturday rotation is 6 PM to 6 AM Sunday morning.
Got it.
This is not, this particular site that we're doing now is for when you require us to, when we have Sandy, the storms, the snowstorms. This is when we have 20 members down there with no place to go.
Got it.
And this is what we're complaining about. It's like we're all on top of each other and we have no place to sleep, no place to go away from everybody, and because we have literally 2 rooms.
Okay.
So that's where, it's not for everyday situation. There will be a camera on the entrance of the building. There will be a camera in the hallways of the building. So we're not really concerned about other things happening in the building because we will be monitoring that kind of thing. But on Saturdays, the parents really don't wanna get up at 1 o'clock in the morning to bring their kids down for an ambulance call. They're doing it, but they really don't want to do it. And because there is no sleeping quarters of privacy, they don't want their kids to stay there.
I think we support this,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Let's move on.
If I was asking which one Cheryl
Yeah.
wanted, and I wanna make sure it's a very large budget.
But if we move forward, like Lizette said, if we do this, that's why I'm here tonight. If we do move and do it as a temporary budget, then we could move forward, we get this done sooner, and it would help out us tremendously.
Sounds like you got a yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we need to bid this?
No,
No.
she said we don't need to bid,
Okay,
we can
because
contract.
Because it's
Okay.
part of.
Because it's a lease.
Yeah.
No,
Crosswalks.
it's not a
Okay, so it was confirmed that
Thank
the,
you.
I go fast, right? It was confirmed that the Department of Public Works completed the painting of the walks requested by the police department on October 8th. And on the report, you can see what roads were done. Ravine Road at Hillside, Magnolia Ave at Hillside, and Hillside at Ravine Road.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm gonna ask the council to, I'd like to move the resolutions ahead of the correspondence. We have a number of gentlemen here, actually, they represent Bottle King. And they're here just to make sure that, in case there's any questions about the license, that Omar, Lisette, or Bill can answer. Does anybody have any questions about, it's rather cut and dry.
No, go ahead. I completely different question.
So, hi, I'm Councilwoman Dayton, and I actually got to sit with Mr. Friedman and hear his pitch at the Chamber of Commerce. And so thank you for being here tonight. Just so our public knows, as part of this pitch, it was incredibly impressive. Here's a business who wants to invest over $10 million in our town. He has been researching Tenafly. He is prepared to have a very upscale store for our residents, but I do have some questions, and I want to tell you, I raised them to him directly. So
But
I
this
will-
is just about
The
the
license.
license.
Okay, so I have questions about, well, this is for the liquor license. Or the,
Yeah,
right, the
it's
liquor
about the
license.
liquor license, but most of the questions I was gonna believe that Bill could answer.
Okay, so then,
Because
you
it's,
wanna start?
yeah, what's the question?
Well, it's a distributor license.
It's a plenary retail distribution license, right?
So my question is, there was a discussion of wine tastings or those types of events. And so would that, my question is, does that require a secondary license?
No.
No, okay.
We've had wine tastings
It's
and
because
wine
it's retail.
benches for years.
Okay,
Retail.
that is my question, it has to do with the license.
Okay, so nobody else has any issue? Did you have something?
And no, I had a different question about something with the closed session.
Okay. So I think we're
Because we
okay.
have, it's been tough.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Took so long.
That's okay. Very interesting.
What?
Just-
They wanted to come on and kind of present, but it goes has to go to closed session.
I'm sorry?
So, should we use fast forward?
Oh, to do that, to get them out of here?
No more than
Wouldn't have anyone other than us in a closed session. Unless it was a witness or something that, you know, that, but, because then it's like having a
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. You know, deal with
So,
it.
Mayor.
How do you deal with it? You're talking about it.
Okay, folks,
Wait,
Well,
by the way, Mayor,
about the
do you know,
contract and-
Lizette, can I ask you, are you still on?
Normally,
Yeah, I'm here.
you should have
There
that
was no issues in the
conversation
transfer of the license, right?
outside.
No, whenever I receive a license, an application for a transfer, I send it to the ABC for a preliminary review, and we go over whatever deficiencies there may be, and the only deficiencies were the standard, about getting the tax clearance, which they did, and, publishing the notice in the paper, but you can't publish the notice in the paper until the applicant has completed the police background check and obtained the tax clearance. So all their paperwork was on the up and up.
Okay,
and by the way, thank you, Lauren, for the comments you made.
okay.
Very proactive. Okay, so I guess the response we should give Rabbi Shane is the police department is willing to approve this change. We do so reluctantly because we're concerned about, you know, the unintended consequences that may occur. I mean, we understand why they want it. They want their staff to be able to park there, but it's gonna become first come, first serve. And there's other businesses there that I believe come in a lot earlier than his staff. The nursing home, the construction people down the end of the block, and they may not have access to these spaces. You know, and somebody parks there and they're allowed to park there all
That's
day.
not changing
Are
at all.
we agreeing to it? I
No.
mean,
I
That's
don't,
not
think,
changing.
we need to discuss
No,
it.
Well, I got the, you know, the chief said if,
No.
he has no problem with it. You guys have a
I have
problem?
I have a-
concerns.
yeah.
You want us to, go for it.
No, I think, you know, first of all, they had wanted it to be limited parking for their own purposes in the past. And in fact, when they came to the Board of Adjustment with a petition, that was one of the,
Thank you.
that was one of the benefits that they cited to, for their petition. So, so now going back, you know, I think there's kind of a, you know, revisiting what they originally thought was a benefit.
Should it have to go before the Board of Adjustments?
No,
No.
this
They
is our
wouldn't have
decision.
to. No, I don't think it would have to, but I
It
think.
wasn't part of the Board of Adjustments decision
Okay.
originally, it was just an argument they made.
Correct.
To receive the variances.
I mean, I think originally we accommodated them. So the question becomes, do we want to accommodate them again? You know, they're aware of our concerns. They even put on it, we're aware of this request will provide car parking for commuters. Well, commuters and other people as well. Mark had his hand up, and then Lauren.
Yeah, I think, you know, when we reconsider, when we change parking signs, it's kind of like with mall. If we try something out, it doesn't work, we change it to something else, and that's why I said save the signs, because they might come back 6 months from now and say we like it the other way, and that's okay.
But we won't give them new signs.
We won't give them new signs.
Lauren, and then Jeff, you had your hand up? No?
So I have two things. Number one, I think that before we make this decision, and I hate to hold it up, but there's 3 or 4 other businesses affected by this. There's Buchler Tree Service, there's a dental office, there's Care One, and I think they all have the parking restriction on Harold. And I think that we should have them weigh in.
Well, I would tell you, well, first of all, the dental one is across the street. They have their own parking lot.
Well, they're on the corner. No,
Yeah,
there's
they-
another one on a low building on the corner. I have some pictures that
But my, to be honest with you, Lubavitch is the one that uses these spaces. I don't.
Care One does. Care One people come in and they
It's
go
not
to
their spaces. Keep it 3 hours.
Well, it's not
Public.
Lubavitch spaces either. It's a public
That's what I mean.
street.
I understand
Keep it
that.
public.
But so I'm saying they're not the only business affected, and I would have liked to hear from maybe some of their neighboring businesses. Then the second thing is, do we have all-day parking anywhere else in town?
So, could I just, only
Yes.
because
Yeah.
I've been on Harold Street,
Yeah.
and the businesses that are,
Your business was on that?
no,
Oh,
the
yes.
businesses that are on Harold Street,
Yeah.
that are north of the Lubavitch,
Yeah.
they use
Took pictures.
they use the parking, the street at the end. They have driveways, they have parking lots. They're on
Yeah.
both you know, in other words, they live in an area where they've figured out amongst themselves how to park their cars.
Correct.
And they're all down there, and doesn't seem to be a problem.
So
We could talk
here's
to the middle
Lubavitch,
school
here's
parents.
Care One, this is a building right here.
Right.
And everyone has these pictures, I sent them around, so you can see them. You know, my concern is I don't wanna make an exception for this one street if we're not doing it for many. And I would hate to restrict I would hate to lift the 3-hour parking restrictions throughout our town. Because now someone's gonna make an argument, well, you did it on Harold, why can't you do it on,
We have
County?
different.
Vanu, do you have a minute? Because I'd like to just go around the table. We're spending an inordinate amount of time on every issue, and we're never gonna get done.
Sometimes they need discussion.
So, all right, so I just wanted to, you know, so Lauren would like to reach out to the other businesses on the street. So that's the
Well, no,
one option. The other option is just to approve what they want or not approve it. So,
I
I
said
know
to-
what Lauren says. Mark?
I approve it.
Dan?
No.
Huh?
No.
Jeff?
Well, I think they came before the Board of Adjustments and made a strong case not to have it. So, I'm not for changing right at this point.
Okay. No?
I think unless there's a religious practices issue in this land use question, I would say no.
Okay. So that's the answer. Just a nice letter saying that.
So, can I just respond to something? So actually, I spoke with the security and the parking detail there, and one of the options that we might wanna consider is whether we wanna restrict 3-hour parking for Shabbat. And so that would be allowing their Shabbat guests, you know, these are Friday evening into Saturday, to stay longer and have Shabbat services. So So that's the only other thing I will throw out there.
Well, right
and-
now, there's 3-hour parking for Shabbat and every other day.
Correct, but I'm saying this is an area where we know their congregation comes and where parking is more limited. So
Well,
I will make that
if-
proposal
if
on
you-
the table
If you
as well.
like, we can go back to Rabbi Shane and make that suggestion.
Friday,
How would you
Sat,
like
Friday
to
night
have,
into Saturday.
have just 3-hour parking just on Shabbat, or just on
No,
Saturday,
again,
Saturday
I
and
need,
Sunday?
I need to make a clarification. I'm looking at the code. It's Harold Street, both sides for 3 hours, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday, the entire length.
Oh,
To
so
make the
perfect,
change, it has to be by ordinance, and we only have
We
2
don't even need it for
meetings
Shabbat.
left.
No,
So
as,
if
We
this
don't need it for
ordinance
Shabbat.
is not introduced November
Well,
12th,
driving there for-
it cannot be taken up again until the reorganization of the new council.
That's fine,
No change.
that's
Oh,
fine.
actually, so then actually this wouldn't even apply, what I just said.
Right.
Thank you for the clarification. That's the only other thing I could think of.
Can I just, I don't remember the sign saying Monday through Friday.
Well, I'll tell you.
I mean,
Do I
do
have a
rem-
picture?
do- Perhaps, in other words, if
Updated
he
sign.
needs this for Friday into Saturday, maybe he already has it and doesn't realize it.
Yeah. I
Well, the
mean, that's a
reality of it is,
possibility.
Shabbat, his school is closed. So the parking lot is available.
Right.
And technically, they're supposed to walk anyway.
Correct.
Well,
Mhm.
wait, I can take the pictures of that. I don't think I
took a
had the
picture of it.
signs.
I don't think the issue is on Shabbat, I think the issue is during school hours.
I was just trying to find a common thing. I can't see it on my pictures. It's too far away on my pictures. Okay,
So what is the consensus?
there's
The
3 no
consensus
votes.
is to leave it the way it is, I guess. That's what I hear, right?
Okay.
Sounds like it's 4-1.
Okay.
4.
Okay, next letter is a letter of commendation for the work that the paving group crew did on 4 Glenwood Court. And they did a nice job, and the family was extremely happy. Last but not least is a letter from Valerie
This is exciting.
concerning the planning board's approval of the amendment to the historic preservation. I believe the next step is for the council to approve it soon.
Do we get the
Planning
paperwork?
board,
Are you happy
I
with
didn't
it?
read this.
We need to endorse
Ready.
the
No,
amendment
read it.
to the historic preservation element. A lot of
We
work,
haven't seen it though.
a lot of work went into it.
I mean, this is just the
Didn't we already do this?
resolution, but
No, we
never got it.
sent it back to them for their final approval, and now we have to do our final approval. It's really just,
Is
is this all the
we
paperwork,
already,
just this
we
resolution?
really kind of already approved it. We just had to do a final approval.
Okay, it says September 25th, 2019. Planning board was held.
Folks, we already approved it, so
Yeah.
no issues? Let's move on. Any questions on the resolutions?
I gotta get to them. But yes.
I like that
Any
smile.
questions?
Okay, now I gotta find which resolutions there's nothing in here that they're adding to the police that we didn't budget for, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay?
Oh, yes, no, I would like to take out a resolution.
Which one?
I would like to take out, 2 of them, actually. Hold on.
Can't we just discuss them now and leave them in?
No, well, one of them I don't feel is proper as a resolution for our town, and that is the,
Which one?
the one on the ballot. I don't believe our council should be voting in or out the language, the supporting or against the language on the ballot. I believe our voters should have a say on that. I'm finding it.
Well, actually, our support or opposition to it doesn't count even as one vote.
Well, exactly, so I don't believe that should be an appropriate resolution that we should pass. And I need to find what number it is.
Oh, it's
It's
360.
360, what page is it? 360, no, 371. Hold on. Thank you. No, that's the state constitution one. I'm talking about the one on our ballot.
the supporting the binding referendum question.
Yes. Where is it? Omer, do you know? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I can get it for you.
Okay, hold on.
You're saying R 19-360.
Which is what? No, not 360.
The veterans one?
The supporting
Yeah, that's the
binding
only
referendum
that's the only election one.
That says.
on number E.
We don't have the municipal question.
What is letter
What is
E?
E?
Support binding referendum
That's what I'm-
question
that's
under
what I'm
That's the same thing.
It's the same.
E is 19-360.
It is 360. Okay, and so I'd like to take that one out. Because again, this is, should be decided per voter and not by a council.
Well, we're not deciding anything, we're just, we're offering our support
I don't think we
for
should
this
do that.
assistance to veterans.
Well, we often
It's a-
offer our support to many things around the state.
Correct, but because it's on the ballot for our voters to decide, I'd like the voters to decide.
The voters will decide, but we're still, it's okay for us to have an opinion.
I know.
It's not
Did
partisan.
they just vote
It's a
It's a
non-
nonpartisan question.
I think it should just not be a resolution.
Sorry, so let's just quickly go around the table. Mark, you support?
Leave it in there, sure.
Dan?
Leave it in.
Jeff? Okay, we're gonna leave it in. What, you had the other one?
Just let them come to it.
I understand, but I'm saying I don't think it should be a council resolution, is my point.
Laura,
When
you-
doing the roll call, whoever does not support it could just say yes to the consent agenda, no on 19-360.
Lauren, did you
Okay.
have
Okay, so
one
Bob
more?
has a note. Yes, I do. I want to talk about the plenary retail distribution license.
Which one?
That is number J.
365?
Is this, I'm sorry, is this the one that's for Bottle King?
Yes, this is the one we
And
just
that,
said.
there's nothing else?
That's it.
Okay,
Excellent.
okay, and that's why they all came tonight. Anyone else? have any-
Okay, let's do old business
No,
next.
wait, no, R needs to come out. I'm sorry, R.
Or? Which
Or
one's
wait,
R?
not needs to come out. We need to discuss R.
Are
But
we
can-
not? Are we not?
Why don't do Jeff's first and then
We're
we'll come
gonna
back to
discuss
R.
that?
Well, it can't just, we need to discuss the resolution amongst the remainder of the council.
Oh, okay.
So you
Jeff?
go first and then
I
I'll go
think
back to
mine's
R.
quick, it's on,
That's the point where it could be discussed.
It's what?
Jeff?
alright. Mine's a question about R 19370, Good Taste Restaurant. I know we approve these kind of every year. How
Yep.
long are those approvals good for? And because they're asking at the end of October for outdoor seating, it's a little unusual.
No, it's good for a year.
It's good for the calendar year.
It's good for the
I mean, the
calendar.
calendar, it's good for 12 months.
Oh, it's
So
good
that
for,
way they're not
okay,
having
because
the
most of
summer
these,
violation.
most of these we get somewhere around May or.
You don't like Chinese food?
Well, for some, maybe it's when they first originally applied for it was in an October.
Okay, I just I know that
Yeah.
there are all
It's a
the
hardy
requirements
group,
of
by the way, it's a hardy group that eats outside that restaurant.
Yes.
Food's hot.
All right, that answers that question. That's all I want to know is how long it's good for, 12 months, that's fine.
Can we,
We should definitely get Chinese food.
I just wanna double check, and please excuse me if I am incorrect on this, but I believe I just wanna double check that there's no health code violations, and I could be wrong on
Where?
this. At this at this.
Good taste?
Yeah.
What's
So
that
the
got to
health
do with improving the
inspector-
outdoor seating?
I'm just saying until they, if there are, and they should correct it first before we approve it.
But we
You
have,
give-
we
you
were,
mean
sorry.
new meaning to the term consent agenda. I
No.
mean, come on,
So they'll
one
get
thing
a
has nothing to
violation
do
now.
with the other.
They'll get a violation if they aren't complying. So the
That's
health
all.
inspector was gonna go out. She was supposed to go Tuesday or today.
You can't hold these things up.
Okay. So
All right,
I'd
so-
like to discuss,
Sick from eating inside or outside?
You wanna discuss R?
I do.
Okay.
And so, I would like to be joined also by Mark and Vinu. And Susan and Omar and I have been working, with Civic Plus.
Talking about resolution 373.
I am on website redesign, so it's the website and app redesign. And just to get all of you up to board, we wanted to know if any of you have any questions, because I think we were very happy with what they've offered. They're very willing to work with us on both aesthetics and functionality. They have a lot of, very nice things to include in their $26,000
Sorry, you have to
package.
wait.
And the redesign of the website, we're hoping to award it. I just wanna know if anyone wants to comment on it.
No, all the presentations I saw, the conversations we had, they're very flexible. There's
Yeah.
lots of options that could really, very much improve the website experience for when the residents communicate with our borough.
Oh, was that price-based product without the bells and whistles, or was that some bells and whistles?
It has a very detailed platform called Civic Engage, and that's the 26,764, and it would really encompass everything we need. at the moment to start building the platform and designing it. And then in future years, if we wanna enhance it.
Could always do upgrades at a later time.
I do have a question though about it. Do they have, I mean, I see that they're based in Kansas, do they have any local offices?
No, but they
Where
have,
they're gonna be able to provide faster support than having to wait for someone to.
No, they've done, probably, I forget the actual number, but it's something like 80 or 90 New Jersey websites.
and they win awards on their
Yeah, they-
customer service, 24/7 customer service, they will have someone overnight for us if we need. And they have won what they call the, I think they said the Stevie Award, basically after Microsoft and Dell on customer service, which is one of the things that I really liked about them.
So keep
Yes, they have 24/7 support. They, like I said, they service many municipalities in New Jersey. They also host New Jersey League of Municipalities. And I just found out that they also serve the International Institute of Municipal Clerks, and that's an association that serves all municipal clerks, not just the United States, but in Europe, the Caribbean, South America, Canada, all over.
And they also have enormous storage capacity, they have archival documentation for Oprah, they have retention policies, they archive daily, there's backups upon backups. They have a very nice citizen
Do they
engagement
have a
platform.
backup in a different location?
They do, they have offsite backups, we asked all that
In a different
question.
grid.
In a totally different, they
Okay.
have never had any issues.
Not that I have anything against Kansas, just it's.
And they made time for us, 3
Yeah.
days, they did many presentations, they went over everything, they were very good, very responsive.
I asked hundreds of questions.
Mm-hmm.
True, though, I don't think we're in Kansas.
So I would be very excited to get this project underway for a website and app redesign. I'd be
I'm
very
excited to
excited.
get the consent agenda moved forward.
Yes, well, one thing
Okay.
at a time. Soon it could be electronic.
Anything else on the consent agenda?
No.
Thank you. Old
Okay.
business, the skateboard ordinance?
Wait, we need Bill.
Bill?
Wait, before,
Bill?
Mayor?
Yes.
I had asked Omar yesterday and it just didn't get on here. I have a quick thing for good of the order.
Well, I was gonna do old business first, I have two things for the good of the order too, so you wanna, we used to
Whatever
do
you
old.
wanna do.
All right, go ahead.
So.
I wasn't skipping over it.
Okay. This was really something that I've been discussing, and I'm gonna let Susan take the lead. Since we have a new committee, the stigma-free committee, they're going to need to be able to put things into the budget for 2020. So I don't know logistically.
Yeah, 2020.
For 2020, so how to set that up so that they are able to have a budget, how it works for other committees.
Okay, so what we're gonna have to do is during the budget hearings, we'll set up an amount. We'll have to put a line item or a separate department. We could put a line item under a department, or we could set up a separate separate department like we did for the welcome committee. And then at that point, we're gonna have to figure out what the budget should be.
All right, what do we have for Access for All? Because it's similar, so however that's
even
set
know
up,
what-
is that a
Access
separate?
for All does not have a budget.
No budget.
not
Welcome
right.
Committee has five.
Environmental has 4,000?
No, I don't mean amounts, I just mean where they're set up, whether it's
No, they
under
don't have
departments.
they don't have an account.
And I think.
Because I wanna make sure
Do
that
you
it
have
works
any idea,
well.
or, do you have any idea of the funding for this?
No, but I've started to discuss it with Amy Mark at the last meeting, and they definitely are going to want funding.
Yeah.
We're probably talking that their ask, I won't say what they'll get, but their ask will probably be close to 20,000. That's the ask.
That's a very active committee.
We'll see.
Well, yeah.
Do they know?
They have to break it out,
Out.
whether it's like
They will.
printed and binding,
Yeah,
marketing
printing,
materials.
all
Right,
those
right,
things.
no, they'll break it out, I'm just
They
saying
have to
that.
justify it.
I'm just saying, that's not my question, the question is really how it gets into the budget,
I
where
put it
in the
in.
budget
I
it will
set
be.
it up.
Cause I wanna make sure that it, at least, even if it's 2,000, it gets done.
Yeah,
Right.
I would just set it up, add a new line into the budget or a new department
Okay.
into the budget, It has to be done in 2020.
Fine, because I'd be embarrassed going back to them and saying, in 2020, sorry, you can't ask for money because there's no budget line.
Yeah.
No, that's the
It
time
should
to do
be,
it.
it should be a new account under administration because we
Okay.
have the HPC, Environmental Commission, and Welcome Committee under the administration.
Okay, I'm
Yeah,
just
you did the
putting
right,
it on the
you
radar.
did the right thing
That's
by,
it. Okay, I'm done.
it's up to Susan.
Yeah.
All right, so, well, let's do the rest of the old business, and I have two items for the good of the order as well. Skateboard ordinance,
Jeff and I just have to talk about old things on that, to
We're getting
finalize
there.
that. You getting it, but the pod ordinance though, I have, I was talking to Vanu about, I sent him an email on it, but I just wanna understand what the council wants to do, in terms of, the term of approval that the zoning officer can give in terms of the pod being there. Right now, under our current ordinance, as long as the pod is in the rear yard, the zoning official can give a 6-month, give a 6-month period of time for it to be there. The change, as I understood it, was to make it more liberal so that the zoning officer can approve pods in other locations, for example, in the front yard and the side yard, with certain restrictions.
Without coming to us, right?
Without coming to the mayor and council, right? Because right now, an applicant would have to come to mayor and council in order to put it in either front yard or side yard, if it's not in the
I
backyard.
thought, didn't we just give Bob Burns the authority to do that?
In this ordinance.
Yes, now,
Okay.
the question is, can he give them, can he give the right to be there for 6 months? Or is it some shorter term? Vanu sent me, I don't know who drafted, but it was pretty good. Except that the way it was written, there was some inconsistencies because although the beginning part says 6 months, I think that the intent was that if it was in the front yard or side yard, you can only do 30 days.
Right, so let me explain. I think the way we wanted to look at it was, we know that the front and the side yard is more of an inconvenience to the public, it's more visible and all of that. And we wanted to make it so that the person who's requesting it will not have it there for more. So we didn't want to just give out a 6 month. And have the zoning officer be allowed to give out the 6 months. So we wanted the 1 or 2 months, with the 1 month and then a 1 month extension is what I remember. And each one had a fee structure attached to it. And then anything more than that would come to the council.
Mayor and council. So it's only, I didn't understand that to be
30 days,
what we
right?
were doing. I thought we
So
were
it was
just
30
saying,
days and then extra 30
with
days.
these conditions,
Right.
And
Without
then
coming
it
to
could be
us.
6
without coming
months.
to us. And then,
Are
yeah.
most of the pods being used for construction? In other
No.
words, when people are doing
Oh,
renovations on
it's
their
so for
house?
moving.
No, I meant, is it like they're doing construction and they're
Inside the
storing
house
stuff?
and they store stuff.
Right,
Yeah.
or if they're moving and they're either moving in or moving out and they have to temporarily store things before they could move them into their new house or move them from their old house into the house Tenafly.
Then I assume we don't have any data on how long people average keep these at their
Less
houses.
than 30 days, I think.
Less than 30 days.
I think that's the average, right?
I think it's generally less than 30 days, but, we wanted to put this in to give them the ability in case they needed more.
It was for construction.
We usually grant 90 days, and then if they need an extension, they have to request it in writing before the expiration.
That's
This
what,
is somebody who came in.
that's when it comes to, right, that's when it's
for the rear,
mayor and
in the
council.
rear of the property, but most property owners can't put it in the back because it's just very, the pod companies won't deliver it to the back to begin with. So they'll only deliver it to the front or side yard.
Right now though, the way the ordinance stands, as long as it's in the back, the zoning official can grant 6 months.
Right, exactly.
And this was to avoid the case where a resident has to move out, let's say there's a water main break, there's today, there's no hot water in my house. But, where they are up on a deadline and they have to run in and we don't meet for another 2 weeks. And now they're saying, but I need council approval and our borough administrator has to now email us, can everyone approve this pod?
Right.
In the middle, in between our council meetings, or, you know, wait for the next approval. We're trying to avoid
So
having
the
to do
zoning
that.
official should be able to do it, right?
That's exactly
That's,
what we're
that- that's the point.
The point, you know, some years ago,
Just clears up
I
red
actually
tape.
found out that in 2006, there was I did an amendment which was never actually adopted, which gave the zoning official the right to approve the pods in the front or the side yard. I actually was in 2006. I wrote the ordinance up and everything. It just was never actually adopted.
So what do we,
So-
what's the question before us? 'Cause
So
we
right
all
now,
seem to agree.
how long can the zoning official approve it for?
For the front yard?
Front and side yard.
30 days with a request for additional 30.
I think that's short.
Right.
Don't you
Yeah.
think that's kind of short?
After
Because it's
60
gonna be,
days,
it
but
makes
that's
it
for the-
administrative.
No, that's for the front and side.
Bro,
Wait a
why are
minute.
you
Without
fixing
coming
it?
to us.
Right.
But-
There's
but-
nothing wrong with what we're
but from
doing.
what
This
I've
is a
heard-
request
You've
from
got
our
6
building
months,
department,
so you've
Mayor.
got 2 months.
But from what I've heard,
Our building department has requested this change.
Right, you've got 2 months, and then anything more than that, which 95% of people are gonna have it within the 2 months, and they're gonna get rid of it. Anybody who wants it more than that will then have to come to mayor and council to explain why they need it for, and how long they're gonna need it and all of that. And so, over the 2 months is when they come to us.
okay, from what I heard just now from this table, I heard that now, in most cases, it has to be either in the front or the side because the pod company can't get it in the back. So let's start from the standpoint that almost all of the applications are going to be for
Front yard.
for front or side, all right? So, and I've also heard that in most cases, the people take them out anyway within 30 to 60 days.
Most cases.
So how are you actually saving any time for, or this body right now not having to get involved in it if you're going to limit it to a 30 and a 30-day extension? Because most cases, the 30 days, you know, they're gone in 30 days, and we're not hearing it anyway, and I mean,
Dan,
It's a tiny
hold on,
detail.
Lauren.
why just say that you can give,
No,
wait, let me finish. Why just say that he could do it for 6 months, because most of the time they're gonna be gone in 30 days
Because
anyway.
if you give it the 6 months, then there's the possibility that they'll just be lax about taking it out.
Only
We
one
want it
person,
regulated by
hold on.
But they have to rent the thing.
One person
and
has
pay
their
for it.
hand up and then two. Dan and then Mark.
Whatever the current ordinance is, remove the part where they have to come to the council and give that authority to the
That's what we did.
official.
Been removed.
Well, it's been changed.
No,
Right,
but
except
the
that-
dates, what currently exists, remove us from the equation, replace them with that,
That's the goal.
end of story.
Right, but what I'm saying is the proposal that I'd gotten from.
Forget the proposal you got, just keep the ordinance that we have and just
Cut us-
change
cut us
change
out.
the
But I don't think that's
responsibility.
not what
No,
they
no,
wanted.
after 60 days,
Oh,
they
the
wanted
building
to go to
department?
mayor
Building
and
department
council.
didn't want that.
Want more days.
No, they wanted shorter days.
They wanted
So
shorter
they
days.
wanted, they just didn't want a situation where they get an application.
For 60.
No, they just
For
get
any- for
any
2 weeks,
application.
2 weeks application.
That they then have to wait, for a week or two for us to respond to them, that was the main purpose. But, this actually, they wanted the ability to do the 30 days and the.
Extensions.
And the extensions.
Yeah.
Because they don't want the people, having it in their yards for the 6 months.
Correct.
If you give them the 6 months, yeah, they have to pay for the storage or the pod, but, they'll end up keeping it longer.
But Vinna wrote it exactly as requested by the building
Right.
department.
They
Except
agree
that,
with it.
well, except that the way it's written, for even if it's in the backyard, it has to be 30 days. It's 30 days, so we don't want that.
No, but then the building department can give an extension for another 30, which is basically.
Right, so it's only 60 days, so we're getting rid of all the 6 months completely.
Remember, right, without us having to get involved.
Why do
It's
we
great.
wanna be involved at 61 days? What's the big deal?
It affects the so then you get neighbors who say, I
Who
don't wanna see
complain
this
and,
anymore.
start
We're making it
Then we can adjust
more
the fee.
restrictive now, because it used to be, as it is right now, if it's in the backyard, it's 6 months.
But the pod
that
companies won't
that
deliver to the backyard anymore, and they are getting pushed up And so
that's-
people are getting fined for putting the pods on their sides or their fronts.
If it reaches the backyard, they'll still do it.
So then we're
This is
changing it to
accessibility.
just
Most
a
people
30
do
day,
fine.
30 days.
That's too.
That was,
Really?
that
That's
was
what we do.
the, and the idea was to be more restrictive.
I
do it
I
for-
need more than
That
30
that was
days.
the purpose.
I
of
thought it was, we were expanding
Yeah.
the authority, but okay.
How about if Bill speaks to Bob Burns
I agree.
and they put it together? I mean, this isn't rocket science, folks. Let Bill speak to Bob, get exactly what they want, and since the council seems amiable to giving the building department what they want, just work it out with Bob.
Can I
I
put a
was just gonna
deadline
ask him,
on
if he
this?
wants it to be 30 and 30, that's fine. I'll-
Speak to
I'll
him.
just,
Yeah.
yeah. I'll
Okay,
talk
but
to
but
Bob.
I have to say, since this ordinance has been floating around for like a year, can we please have this for the next meeting?
It's already
Can we at least-
drafted, it's the only
Just
thing.
Bob,
the only
Bill,
thing
just
is-
speak to Bob and finish the ordinance, please.
Okay.
Okay.
It's
I'm gonna talk
Okay.
about pods anymore.
Two items.
Skate park, skateboard.
Two items which I hope are quick for the good of the order. I did make copies because late this afternoon I got a letter from the Wits Club at Stillman School. They come and do that child safety thing every year. They would like us to have a resolution which they'll present to us at the next meeting. Any problem with that?
Sounds good.
Okay. The other thing is, I have two names that Jamie gave me. You may be aware that the rec board is short two guys, two people. They're going to lose one more in the end of the year. But forgetting about that for now, the two names I have are John Natch, who is also on the Teen Center board, and Richard Press. Richard used to be on the Board of Education.
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to.
Who nominated them? Is it from you?
Well, it's my job to nominate, it's your job to approve it.
Do they have sport age kids?
So, yeah,
Do they have
no,
kids
well,
in-
Richard does not, but
No.
John does.
He was just talking.
How old?
John's last
He was-
John does have kids
John
in the
does.
rec program.
He's a softball coach too, I think.
Can I ask why you're nominating, just out of curiosity, somebody without kids that are participating in the rec program?
Well, because he served on the Board of Education, he's a professional skier. He
You don't
also,
offer skiing, do you?
well, I'm just saying, he's involved in athletics. Apparently he volunteered, and he's well-known, and I think he's a good fit.
Okay.
There will be one more,
Can we meet?
there will be one more, the first of the year, and I think the recommendation would be to see if we could find a woman to take that spot.
Or just make, I know, but I think that we should just make sure, so the rec board, you know, and Mark and I have experienced this, everyone has their own sport, sort of, everyone sort of is, you know, there's a wrestling guy, and a softball guy, and a basketball guy, and a soccer guy. I just would make sure that we spread out the interests of the
Yeah,
sports.
now we
and
got a
we're
skier.
We're losing somebody who did a lot of the rec events, like the cupcake eating contest and the parents overnight, so I wanna make sure we fill, at least somebody who's interested in those aspects too.
Okay.
Not just anybody, but somebody who really
All right,
fits the bill.
well, we actually have 3 months to come up with somebody. I mean, it's really not our, you know, I only normally ask for recommendations from the rec board. They provide most of them, and we'll make our feelings known that we want somebody of that ilk.
Sure.
Okay. That's it for the work session, I hope.
Wait, no, I'm sorry, I had a good, for the good of the order. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and so I just want to raise the issue. I hope that anybody who, both men and women who are affected equally by this, please go get tests. Please support those who are getting tests, and just please, you know, donate if you can for the cause.
Okay, a motion to close the work session?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, the notice requirements have been satisfied. Meeting dates for the year are confirmed at the annual meeting, are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the Municipal Center and published in the record within the first 10 days of the new year. Copies of all revised or additional meeting notices are sent via fax to the record, Suburbanite and Northern Valley Press, and are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the Municipal Center. Salute to the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bash. Councilmember Dayton.
Here.
Councilmember Grossman.
Here.
Councilmember Menon.
Here.
Councilmember Park.
Here.
Councilmember Zena.
Here.
Mayor Rustin.
Here. Revisions to the agenda? No?
None.
Public comments, anybody care to speak? If you do, please stand up and give us your name and the street that you live on.
Hi, Linda Crozier, Hudson Ave. I guess I have a few comments. One, I was interested in figuring out more about the leave pickup situation where I live, and I was telling this gentleman, though I don't know his role, was that there's a massive mountain of leaves on Hudson, so you actually have to drive in oncoming traffic. So I'm just trying to understand when leaf pickups are.
When it
Or
starts.
is there like a rule, like every other Wednesday?
No.
It's
No
just
rule.
random?
We go out, we have every zone is covered with at least one machine, and they go around constantly.
But there's not a frequency of how often?
It depends on how heavy, or how
Got
light it
it,
is.
so it's just based on observation?
Just got a phone call today that we're servicing one street too often, so.
Alright, well, I'm just letting you know that
Well,
tile's scary.
if there is a situation where you believe is a safety hazard, you can either call the DPW or call the police department. If the police deem it a safety hazard, I'm sure they'll get DPW up there right away.
And notify them, also notify the resident, to notify their landscaper to stop making
It's
hazard.
kind of big, it can't, I mean, it could be from one property, but it's pretty big. It
Well, what they
almost
like-
looks like it's an accumulation of several properties.
What they like to do is push it all down the street, so it's not spread out thin in front of the house. So they try to keep the front of the house clean, that's the landscape. So
Maybe.
they push it down into big piles.
Yeah, it's-
Instead of leaving it 3 foot wide the length of the house, they like
Right.
to make it 10 foot wide and down at the one corner, so the house looks nice and clean.
I guess that's possible.
And that's exactly what
But
they do.
if there's a real problem, let us know. And, you know, worst case scenario, the homeowner might get a summons if they're creating a hazard, but we don't like to do that.
I don't know who the cause is, so I'm not putting fault on
Well,
anyone.
we're not asking you
Got
to
it.
point the blame, it's just if there's an issue, just let us know.
The reason why I'm here is because my husband got a ticket in front of Mom for parking to pick up our daughter to take her to the doctor, at which point we discovered the no parking sign. It might have been there, I'm sure it was there, because I've been told it has been, we just probably never noticed it. Because we only go there during pickup, but one day he went 30 minutes early to pick up, to go to an appointment. He told the crossing guard, "Gonna grab my daughter," leaving, and she called the cop. I understand the rules, I'm not disputing them, I don't know the reasons, the surveying and everything that's done. I just think that if the chief was here, my request would be, is kind of like a courtesy thing. It's there for 5 minutes, do a drive-by, leave it alone, come back, it's still there, issue the summons. He was in there for 30 seconds. I think it's a little weird that we have to be penalized to get our kids from school or drop them off. If I'm blocking it for an extended period, I understand, but that's silly. And I know several people that have underwent the similar situation, and I think it's odd, and I think it's also what the crossing guard did, assuming she was involved in reporting.
What makes you think she was involved?
My husband thinks, and I don't know, so if that's the case, I think that was wrong for her to lead him on to feel as though it was okay, assuming she did that, that was his interpretation. So it's more of a courtesy thing. Third thing, I have a question.
Well, before
Never end.
on the second thing,
Uh-huh.
you do have the opportunity to go in and plead your case. Now, obviously, he was guilty of breaking the rules, but you can almost, you go see the prosecutor, guilty with an explanation. We're sorry, he was in there for 30 seconds, my daughter had to go to the doctors, and we actually said something with the crossing guard. I mean, maybe they waived the fee, or part of it, I'm not gonna speak for the prosecutor, but you do have that option.
Understood.
Okay. Number 3 now?
Going back to the pond, which, somebody asked, I was just curious to know what the borough's understanding was. If nature took its course, what's the worst that happens? Like you said, the pond's eventually gonna dissipate, like that's its purpose. Like, what's the worst case scenario? There was a gentleman sitting here, he's saying it's unique, whatever, okay, fine. Not that I'm disputing that, but if it is so unique, I think, and I guess this is more advice to you, but there are a lot of nonprofits out there that our sole purpose is to preserve these types of natural resources. So why not go to them to seek funds, one?
Thank you.
Or assistance. I mean, just even like, there are a lot of wealthy families in town that love to spread their name. $5,000, you get a bench around the pond. It says your name on it. I mean, it's a small amount of money, but it's money. And then the third thing was, where I grew up in Oradell, we had a pond on Oradell Avenue. It was free, fine, but you know what? If that pond's only 2 feet after you do your raking and all that, I'm almost certain it freezes over in the winter, and there's that little hut over there that's pretty much useless other than for cute pictures. You could put a kid in there, sell skates for rent for $20 or whatever. It's a source of revenue for 2 months a year. And I think my kids would love to go somewhere locally to ice skate.
I'm not sure you
Ice
could
skate on
skate on that
Sisters.
pond with all of the vegetation.
No, after you
Oh,
do it
after.
as a source of revenue to offset the maintenance that you need to do to maintain the additional
You have to
growth.
sell a lot of skates.
Well, it's,
And by
okay.
the way, that's a picture of Fister's Pond there that was done by Alice Rigney. She's lent it to us. And you did hear the dialogue. We did, I know I specifically asked him about fundraising. And I also asked him, I asked Andy.
He didn't answer the
what-
question really, I don't think.
Well, I think if they thought that they could raise the money, they would have done it already. So I don't know. But
Yeah.
all idea is good. Anybody else, you care to speak?
I do, but I'd rather sit if that's okay.
Okay, but you just need to state your name for the record.
Angela Leone, and I live at 152 Magnolia Avenue. So I have at the bottom of my driveway, and I've called the DPW a few times, a pond. So my son, who is special needs, he gets a bus to and from school, can't walk down the driveway. So
This is our DPW director, by the way, I wanted to hear it. So makes
should
sense.
I start over?
Start over.
Please, okay.
Yeah, start
So
over.
Bob, this one's for you.
Angela Leone. I live at 152 Magnolia. And at the bottom of my driveway, I have a pond. For still today, and it rained, yesterday, the day before, and it's probably will stay there till the next time it rains. I've called the DPW a few times. They've driven by, I've taken pictures, I've sent emails of pictures.
What's the address again?
152 Magnolia. So as I was saying, my son takes a bus to school, he's special needs, so he has to walk down the driveway. So, since I live on Magnolia Avenue, there's a ton of cars that park on that street. So I put a cone out in front of my house so that my son, because he can't walk through the pond, walks down the walkway in front of my house. But besides that, I also wanted to comment and say that everyone who works at Park Medical is told to park on Magnolia Avenue, which they don't have enough employee parking, so they tell their employees to park
Park Medical is on
county
Road.
road, yes.
And that answers the question I've had for a long time, because I didn't think it was commuters.
No, it's
You
not
got-
commuters.
You got a half a dozen people that park on the north end of Magnolia on the west side of the street.
Yes.
That's where she
I always
is.
wondered where those cars came from. They come from Park.
They-
Yes, that's.
I'm
They're in
across the
scrubs,
street.
I've seen them.
Right, so they all,
Yeah.
they have their scrubs on and they all walk to work, and so I actually asked a few officers, I'm like, well, is there anything that you can do? And he said, besides making it 3-hour parking, there's really nothing that you can do. So Max, I believe, went to the chief, and he made it so that you can't park during the carpool hours. Only up until a certain distance, but not to the end of the street.
No, that would be onerous.
That would be what?
Onerous, it would be,
No,
that's
it's
a
not-
little
it's
over
not
the
that-
top.
It's not that long of a street to get to.
It's-
Well, I know how
You're
long it is.
basically
I mean-
leaving 4 houses off.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm saying the carpool lane, that's not an area that's impacted by pickup time.
It's
Oh, yeah, the purple line goes all the way
1000%
up-
is, I
On
can't
the
make
end
a.
of the street?
Oh, yeah, it goes all the way up
Yeah,
Hudson
it goes,
then.
Yeah, it
you
goes-
can't even.
All the way up Hudson.
Yeah, they can't turn off a Hudson,
Yeah.
or it goes all the way down.
Peter, I'm gonna introduce for a question, based on what you just said about the business. Maybe this is an area where we think about a resident-only parking on that street at some level to prevent, which to include the parents.
It's a error valve.
Well, first of all.
But I'm just throwing it out there as an
You got a
idea.
business with employees.
Right.
And it comes back to the old, same thing with the Morham School employees. Where do you want them to park?
That's why we talked about potentially with the chief looking at new locations for parking spots, parking lots.
There are other side streets,
Yeah.
just not Mom because of the school traffic.
I mean, so,
There's more than one answer to this question, I think. is
I'm
what's
just
gonna-
saying,
yeah. There's multiple answers.
Before we tell people they can't park somewhere, we ought to at least figure out where they can park.
Yeah.
This has been the
That's
issue.
right, it's multiple issues.
so as I was saying.
No, it's a valid point, yes.
So when the bus is coming at the exact time that this line is a standstill all the way to Hudson, I cannot make a right out of my driveway because the cars are going this way, so I can't go left because
Which
I
is
can't
your
go-
house? Are you one of the first house, second house, third house?
I'm 4 houses from Hudson.
You're 4 houses from Hudson.
And I can't make a right out of my driveway because there's a car parked up against my driveway, right here. I can't go out because there's a car parked across the street, and then there's the carpool line. So I can't go right, can't go left because I can't cut the cars, and there's cars parked on this side. So it's basically cars going this way, cars stop dead, and I can't make a right.
You're saying, and Laura, and I think you agreed with her,
Yes.
that the
100%.
carpool line from Morham School goes all the way up Hudson Avenue?
Up to
100%.
Hudson.
I'm on the last car every morning. And Angela knows this.
Depends on the
Always
time,
me.
but yeah.
Well,
I am on the end of that line. I start all the way back to Engle and Hudson.
Keep in
And then
mind,
go all the way down.
the only one I'm not sure of, and Mark would know, is Stillman. But I know at Smith School, the line goes all the way down Downey Drive. At McKay School, forget about trying to get down, up or down Jefferson Avenue at pickup time. I mean, all of these schools have the same problem. They're all in residential.
Right,
I would assume Stillman has its own issue.
Stillman has, it doesn't go up, doesn't really go up Tenafly Road because we
Yeah.
have 3 streets where the parents
Yeah.
can line up.
Stillman is, it seems
Front of
logical.
Stillman's like
Yeah.
an airport.
It's a little easier than the other
Actually,
schools.
Jefferson moves pretty well, I think. No,
Mine
I
does
don't
not.
live there, but I, until Jill started driving,
That's
I've been driving
Right.
my children to the high school for years and the middle school. So I think Jefferson moves pretty well. And there tends to be, if there's issue, we'll send some officers over to help.
And then also,
But yours sounds
just
really
to,
tough.
just to add to all of that mayhem with all the parking and the carpool and everything else, we also don't have sidewalks.
Yeah, there's
parents walking in the
So there's
Well, we went through that a little earlier. You heard
Hudson and
that.
Magnolia. So just to let you know, 2 meetings ago, I asked for, in particular, Hudson and Magnolia sidewalks. I raised that issue.
So now when there's snow, or there's leaves, or there's anything else, your child is literally walking with
In the street.
3 stacked cars
In the street.
in the street, and so where do they go?
Keep in mind, when there's snow, if there's
They
a
can't walk on the
sidewalk,
grass.
if there's a
It's
sidewalk, you can
snow.
shovel it.
I'm happy to shovel it, keep my
Okay,
kid out of the street.
Well, because
I mean-
we went through a project over at Smith School that still makes you shudder if you were part of the Downey Drive sidewalk, where this was a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Sidewalk to the school, and yet, is the court case still going on?
No.
We had a court case, they took us to court to try and stop it, and Mr. Grossman will tell you how he feels about the Downey Drive sidewalk, because he has a corner property, so no more, he suffers the most. He has the longest
And I was the
sidewalk.
only one on that entire block who supported sidewalk.
I mean, I don't think it should be
Well,
about like
let me-
whether or not you support it. It's like, do you support your kid walking in the street?
Let me
Like, I
tell
don't-
you, every solution, I will tell you, creates new problems.
Yeah.
So what happens is, we have this sidewalk,
Mhm.
and it's on both sides of the street, so people will now pull, they've made it one way, Downey going into Smith is one way, and people will now pull to the left, and let their kids out of the passenger side into traffic.
I see it, it's crazy.
And
Our lines do that
you
too.
would have this problem if you made it one way, then when there's something like back to school night, everybody assumes it's one way again, and it becomes a free-for-all on the street. That someone hasn't gotten killed on Downey is amazing.
Well, my son goes to Smith because he goes to the PAWS program, so
Right.
I know both schools.
Right,
But I'm
and
telling
you-
you, this,
and that's-
going down Downey is a breeze compared to trying to go down Magnolia.
Yep.
Well, you
So,
wanna know something? I mean, we can ask the chief to more seriously look at making the street one way. But I would tell you, the residents on that street.
not on that street,
On
not
the
that
rest?
part, but I don't think the one way is gonna
It's not
solve
gonna
your issue.
solve anything, I don't
think
think.
it's about sidewalks and it's about making one whole side of the street no parking.
Yeah.
Or 3-hour parking or something, you just can't have
You know,
three rows.
Downey during school on the south side, all the way from Engel straight up to the school, no parking.
Exactly, so why isn't
But
it
that
that
doesn't eliminate
way?
the pickup line.
No, but it will
No,
clear
but it
space
gives
for
more-
it, it
It
definitely
doesn't
will.
eliminate the pickup line. 'cause the
No,
pick-
but across the street from my house,
Where you come out
directly
of the
across the street from my house,
That's
people
a
are
big
parked across the street, then the carpool line.
The pickup line gets moved to the middle of the street.
It's not parking to Julie's house after Julie's.
Well-
After Julie's house, it's
We'll-
parked,
we'll-
so that's what I'm saying, so it's a parked car,
Mark, let's,
then
let's,
carpool.
once again,
then
let's
parked
ask the
cars.
chief to look into this again, the northern end of Magnolia at pickup time, let him look at that. And, you know, if we need to consider a sidewalk, it's very expensive, but if we need to consider a sidewalk, so be it. Or we need to put some parking regulations in, so be it, but parking regulations impact the residents more than they do anybody else, keep that in mind. Lauren?
So I just wanna comment on something Angela, I just wanna comment on something Angela said. First of all, I agree 100% with what she has represented to be our traffic situation. But in terms of the sidewalks, which I've already brought up for 2 meetings in a row, I was just in Altapan, and Altapan got, I believe, my parents' home just got sidewalk, and all brand new sidewalks in various places. And I believe my dad said there was some grant or state funding for a sidewalk program, and I think we should look into it. And maybe we do it street
Well,
by
there's
street.
there's a grant called Safe Streets to Schools, but.
Well, there you go. Safe routes to schools.
That,
We should be
use that for
investigating
the
this.
Downey Drive sidewalk as well.
Safe-
So maybe
safe-
something
safe
we-
again.
We were going to do that with Stillman, the safe routes to schools. It's just that, New Jersey DOT put in also federal requirements. So it was gonna cost us 6 figures, and we'd be in the negative using that grant. That's why we didn't pursue it with Stillman.
How many
Oh,
streets
yeah.
were you
We
looking
have-
at? How many streets?
It was sidewalks.
The corner in
Cost more
Stillman.
to
That's
administer
it? Just
the
a
grant.
corner?
Because now they
We would
want
have had to pay the
federal,
federal
they want
government to
federal
get the money.
oversight, you have to pay for
That's why
federal
we got rid of it.
inspectors. It's similar like how we had to pay for CSX for Piermont Road, but at a much, much more extravagant price. So we would be in the red trying to solicit that grant.
Can you ask Mazer grant writers to check into other options?
Yeah, it probably, you know why? Because these streets are right there. And this whole area.
Okay.
Let's
All right,
see, let's
ladies,
see
is
what
there
we got.
anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
I had something, Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry, Robin.
Robin Pierce, Norman Place. Actually, I just came to the meeting tonight, but now that you mentioned this whole pod thing, I do have an opinion. I think that, for different parts of town, depending on the size of the lot and stuff, maybe having a pod there for 2 or 3 months wouldn't be a big issue. But if you're living, and your neighborhood is, a lot of the houses are 50 feet wide, and your neighbor is like right there,
With
I
a
would,
sideward pond.
I would be very unhappy to see a
All
pod
right,
there
guys,
for 6 months.
we broke one of the cardinal rules. We're not supposed to be having any dialogue during public comment. We're just to listen to the public. I'm sorry, Robin, would you go on, please?
So I was just, I would not be happy. It's hard enough living across the street or next to new construction, but if somebody has to have a pod there for 6 months, I understand. If there were a situation where they had a fire or a flood, and as a neighbor, I would totally understand. If they were just storing crap in there, I would not understand. Go rent, a space someplace. Cart your stuff over there and rent it. I do not wanna look at your pod.
Well, once again, whatever regulation we have, is not, we have a regulation 6 months. It's not that they automatically get 6 months. A lot depends on the situation.
Yes,
If
yes.
it's just
I
storing something,
totally
they're not gonna
understand
get
that,
60
but I'm
days.
just giving you my opinion.
Understood.
Because you're talking about 30 days, 60 days, 6 months, and as I said, it may depend on the particular lot, and I don't know if it's even possible to do that, but of course, some of the lots in town are half an acre, some are 50 by probably 100. So, that's just my opinion. I wouldn't want
Well, you're absolutely correct.
to see that thing for 6 months.
Thank you. Any other public comment? I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember Bash, Councilmember Dayton,
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Menon,
Yes.
Councilmember Park,
Yes.
Councilmember Zinna.
Yes.
Committee reports, and if anybody has a long committee report, I'm gonna give you a long mayor's message, so make it short. Jeff, you have anything?
Yes, last night the planning board met. They were looking at an application for 21 South Summit Street, which is across from the senior center. It's a small house that there's a proposal to put a small commercial site on the first floor and then two duplex apartments above that. And there were a number of questions from members of the planning board, so they will be returning possibly with a revised plan sometime in the next month or so. Also, next Wednesday at the high school media center is going to be a hearing, planning board hearing on the Bottle King application. So do want people to be aware of that and know that that will be heard. It will probably, based on the size of the application, not be concluded in one night, but may take more than one meeting.
Can you tell me what the issues are that we even need to discuss in the planning board at this time? Like, what is before the planning board that they need to decide?
Very, very small
It's
variances,
very
okay,
small.
something along the width of the loading dock, there is one setback. You know, basically, the situation is this. They could move in tomorrow, use the old building, and not need a variance, and not have to be heard before the planning board.
They could even shift the building and not even have the loading dock issue.
They want
That's
to
just a
build a new
design
building, set it back further from County Road, and then if you, really diminuous, variances. So, that's it. There's nothing really major. And
It's from something.
if they don't get their variances, they'll probably just use the old building, but that would be a negative for us, I think.
The other thing, obviously, that will be discussed, because they supplied a traffic study.
That was the other question.
And they have provided one, and there will be, I'm sure, a number of questions about the study. They did revise it. Their original study was only from 2 summer days, and they did do 2 days in, I believe, October, so that there's a Wednesday or Thursday, midweek, and a Saturday. But again, I'll be looking at the hours of those studies, how those studies were conducted.
Do they do one during school pickup?
That's why I say,
That's
it's
your,
going to
that's
look.
your key question.
It's going to look at our, I really don't want to pre-do the testimony. And
Sure.
I go in with an open mind, I listen and ask lots of questions as necessary.
That's your job.
That's the job. But I will tell you, to answer your question, that having read the study, I believe the weekday study was conducted between 4:30 and 6:30 in the afternoon, just to answer your question.
Is that it, Jeff?
That's it.
Vanu, you have anything?
So Tenafly Board of Adjustment, there were 3 applications. 142 Windsor Road, where this was another one where a deck was built by a contractor who applied for a permit, but didn't. It wasn't approved, but the contractor built it anyway. So, anyways, the resident or the owner sued the contractor and won in court, and received a judgment for it. But apparently, he came to the Board of Adjustment meeting unprepared, and so the people on the board were not willing to, not that they weren't willing to, but they suggested maybe that he should come back once he has a little more information and becomes familiar with the process. So that was delayed. The second application was for a pool in the rear yard, and it was a reduced size pool, but it was still too big for the so ultimately they approved it. Third application was for that house that's right next to, it's on County Road, it's in a non-conforming space, a B2, a house in B2 on County Road, across from the bank, the Valley National, you know, and the child care center. So, yeah, it's next to the real estate, whatever.
Headed north. It's the one that's a little up on a hill?
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah.
What was that application?
So that was, they wanted to build a second floor, and it was within the same footprint and everything, so it was approved without any.
Interesting.
But it's interesting to note that there's a house there, there are people living there, and they're happy living there, and they want to expand it.
Yeah, it's kind of a different house.
So there was a senior services meeting, a senior services committee meeting, and the bulk of the time, I believe the mayor was there as well. There was a discussion. There was a transportation report where John had mentioned the fact that they're having trouble getting drivers because you know, other towns around us are paying more. So he gave an amount of $23.50 for Cresskill and $18.50 for Tenafly. So
Per hour?
Per hour. So you know, he was kind of saying that they may end up having to push the salaries up higher, which means, you know, they'll come to us. But besides that, you know, the licenses, the testing has been a lot more stringent, and they've been having trouble getting them. There was a long discussion on getting AARP designation as an age-friendly community, and so they're going through the process of trying to figure out how they can do that and what they need to do for that. And I mean, there were a couple of other items, but I don't know if the mayor, you know, has anything that he'd like to contribute.
The senior services?
The senior services.
Well, it's just, you know, we got a report from our senior services coordinator, Perrine, and it's just remarkable the work that she's doing. But what is also remarkable is the amount of work that needs to be done. You know, we don't realize, you know, how much need there is in Tenafly, how many seniors are there without support groups, and she's done a remarkable job. So I can't say that often enough. We're very fortunate to have her.
Right, and just to piggyback on the mayor's comments, they're trying to figure out if they can get additional hours for her, and you know,
There is a need.
because there is a need.
Mark, you have anything?
Chamber of Commerce had their street fair this past weekend. Saturday they had about 50 vendors. They're reporting about 4,000 to 5,000 people attended. On Sunday it was a lot of rain. There were only 25 vendors, and they had about 2,000 people. Yes.
No.
Oh.
I got interrupted,
Okay.
but
Oh, I'm
I'll go after
sorry.
you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
Well,
I'll go after you.
finish.
About 2,000 people showed up, and it raised about $3,000 for the Chamber of Commerce. That's it.
Finley, you want to finish?
Yeah, so
I'm sorry.
senior center board meeting, very simple. They had a lot of activities. They're all filling up very well, and they're doing great. This Saturday, there's a pancake breakfast from 9 to 12. They're inviting everybody and their uncle. You know, if you're a kid and you dress up in a Halloween costume, you get some kind of free gift or something like that.
You have to be a kid.
So I guess.
I was just thinking.
Everything was donated by IHOP and
ShopRite.
ShopRite.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's great,
Yeah,
nice.
And then there were so a bunch of other activities, and then they also had a meeting later on in the day discussing their new membership fee, and you know, so there were some questions from the audience, and the majority of the audience was supportive. So
Event's going live next year.
and that'll be as of January 1st.
$25.
Oh, I have a
$25.
question. Did they have a fee for Tenafly residents and non-residents?
So because it's there's a federal element to it, to the senior center, they can't do that. They can't.
can't?
Yeah. They can't.
Same price for both,
Okay.
which is $25.
Annual.
That it?
And that's it.
Mark, did you have anything else?
That was it, just.
Lauren,
I'm
please?
actually gonna be fast, you're gonna like this. The welcoming committee would like a request for drawers somewhere in Borough Hall to store some stuff. I actually suggested maybe the ones next to the HPC drawers, which council has, but I don't think any of us use except for Dan. But again, I don't wanna steal our drawers, but, you know, they use that room to prepare their bags for
Yeah,
giveaways
yeah.
and things, so I thought it might be logical to put it in there. So if we could try to find them a space.
This is above what the cabins they have.
No, they got rid of those.
I don't know. We have to go see if any of those drawers are used.
Fine, whatever it is, but they would like drawers.
Good luck.
The Board of Health, again, please get your flu shots here in Tenafly. I know CVS is giving them out in other places, so please remember to get your flu shots. The 125th committee, we had some entries for our scavenger hunt. We had 2 wonderful entries for our scavenger hunt, and we will be officially awarding winners next meeting with prizes. How's that sound? And I would like to schedule, Mayor, a joint use meeting to discuss not only the parking situation, but the handicap parking at Griffin's Playground.
Okay.
Okay, that's it. See, that was super fast for me.
Dan, you have
Oh, that
anything?
is their property.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dan, you have anything?
No.
Okay, any older new business? No mayor's remarks? We wanna read the closed session, please?
So it's really tough to know. To ask me how resolve complies with NGSA is going to go first. Mayor and council will go into closed executive session, discuss the following matters. We have 2 personnel matters. One is just an update on the status of